Chapter 2270. Ancient Sect. When Yang Ming heard this name, he frowned. This was not the first time he had heard this name. Yang Ming already knew a lot about the people and things at the ancient level. When he came back this time, he had met two people from the ancient Feng family on the plane. Therefore, when Yang Ming heard the words ancient sect, he was a little puzzled. He did not expect that the people around him would come into contact with this level. Although it sounds like a fantasy story to us ordinary people, in fact, there really are martial arts sects. Chu Sanhua saw Yang Ming frown and thought that Yang Ming did not believe in the existence of ancient sects and martial arts sects. So he quickly explained, moreover, this martial arts sect is really very powerful. It is said that those people, as long as they use a move, are unbelievably powerful. Breaking a boulder with one palm sounds impossible, right? But they could do it easily. I know about ancient sections. Uncle Chu, you don't have to explain. Just continue. Yang Ming smiled bitterly and said, that's great. Then I'll continue. When Chu Sanhua heard that Yang Ming knew about the ancient level, he was surprised and happy. He quickly continued. That girl ran away from the marriage. I heard that their sect wanted to marry her to another ancient sect. She didn't want to, so she ran away from the marriage. Sigh. If I had known that her background was so powerful, I wouldn't have let anything happen between my son and her. But now it's too late. Uncle Chu, your son and daughter-in-law were taken away by the people from the ancient sect? Yang Ming frowned and asked. That's not true. After the girls said these things, I realized that something was wrong. I gave them a new identity and sent them abroad to study. Chu Sanhua said, but yesterday the girl called and said that it seemed that her sect found them and found the place where they were studying. At this juncture, the girl was pregnant. Aren't they studying abroad? Can they still be pregnant? Yang Ming was stunned. This kind of thing is very common overseas, right? There are many overseas university students who get married and have children. There's nothing strange about that. Chu Sanhua said, at this time, if that girl is taken away, then the child in her stomach will definitely be lost. Yang Ming nodded and sighed. Uncle Chu, you mean I heard from my sister and brother-in-law that you're a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. You should be in contact with these ancient sects, right? I was thinking, could you be the middleman and talk to that girl's ancient sect, the Dark Knight Palace, to let her go? If it really doesn't work, we could take her away after the child is born. I don't want to lose this child, Chu Sanhua said. Ancient sects. Yang Ming shook his head with a wry smile. It's definitely impossible to negotiate with them as a member of the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. There are people from ancient aristocratic families in our Supernatural Investigation Bureau. I know a lot about ancient matters. They're all very strong and have very high standards. For them, there's no such thing as begging for mercy. Only the fist is the absolute truth. This, Chu Sanhua's face darkened. In fact, how could he not have guessed this result? He was just trying to find Yang Ming, but when Yang Ming told him the situation, he shook his head helplessly. It seems, it's impossible. It's not impossible. Yang Ming smiled and said lightly, I just said that for this group of people with high standards, there's no need to beg them. Just remember that the fist is the absolute truth. As long as your fist is hard, they have to be willing even if they don't want to. Big Ming, you mean? Chu Sanhua looked at Yang Ming in disbelief. He didn't expect Yang Ming to say such domineering words. On the return flight, I met two people from the ancient Feng family. They pretended to be badass and made me get off the plane. Yang Ming said lightly, it's really impossible to reason with them. Uncle Chu, but I have other things to do tomorrow. You tell me where they're studying, or it's best to let them go to Las Vegas to seek refuge with me. I could protect them well by my side. You're leaving tomorrow. What? Las Vegas? Chu Sanhua heard the first half of Yang Ming's words and was a little nervous, but when he heard the second half of his words, he was surprised and happy. Big Ming, you're going to Las Vegas too? What's wrong? Asked Yang Ming. The place where my son is studying is a university near Las Vegas. Chu Sanhua said happily. It's only an hour's drive to Las Vegas. Okay, give me their names and contact details. I will help them deal with this. Yang Ming didn't say much and said straightforwardly. It wasn't that Yang Ming was being a busybody and arrogant, but this was Aunt Chu's problem, so it was Yang Ming's problem. Yang Ming couldn't just ignore it. Besides, Yang Ming wasn't afraid of ancient sections. So what if they were ancient sects? With him around, who could hurt the people around him? My son is called Chu Pingzhan, and that girl is called Yiwan. Chu Sanhua said, but their current identities are not these two names. They are now called Chunzhe and Tao Linfong. Chunzhe, Tao Linfong? Yang Ming frowned. These two names gave him a familiar feeling. Suddenly, Yang Ming thought of something. Chunzhe, Tao Linfong, I have seen them before. Big Ming, you said you have seen them before? Chu Sanhua was stunned. Even Lu Weishan and Aunt Chu were stunned. They didn't know how Yang Ming had seen them before. Last year, they offended a local tyrant called Langu in Las Vegas, right? Asked Yang Ming. Ah, you know about this. Could it be you're the person who helped them? Chu Sanhua thought of something and looked at Yang Ming in shock. Yang Ming nodded with a smile. That's right. It was just a small matter. I helped them because they were from the same hometown, but I didn't expect it to be the right thing to do. So that's how it is. Pengzhan told me that he met a benefactor there. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how to solve the problem. He is in Songshan and is the successor of Pengzhan Industries. He has some ability, but when he went there, he couldn't do anything. Just as he didn't know what to do, he met you. Chu Sanhua sighed. Chapter 2271. Hee, give me their contact information. I'll contact them when I'm there. Yang Ming said with a smile. However, he had some doubts in his heart. Since Yiwan came from an ancient sect, she should have some strength, right? However, she was bullied by Langu Jr. and had no strength to fight back. Okay. Chu Sanhua quickly gave Chu Pingzhan's contact information to Yang Ming. I won't say many words of thanks. In short, there are thousands of words that I can't thank you enough. Uncle Chu, you're too polite, Yang Ming said with a smile. It's a family matter. It's my duty to do it. Chu Weifong was very happy after listening to Yang Ming's words. Originally, she thought that Yang Ming would be very difficult and cause a lot of trouble for Yang Ming. However, she didn't expect that Yang Ming would agree so easily. This made her surprised and happy. Big Ming, thank you. Otherwise, our family would still be worried about this. Chu Weifong said, It's nothing. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, Right, I came here tonight to say goodbye to you and Godfather. I'm going to Las Vegas tomorrow to help a friend. However, it seems that I can help Uncle along the way. I didn't expect that it's such a coincidence. We're all going to the same destination. It's called fate, Lu Weishan said with a smile. However, you just came back and you're leaving in a hurry. There's no other way. Yang Ming smiled bitterly. With great power comes great responsibility. This sentence is not wrong at all. I really can't refuse these things. This has become something that I have to do. And that's right. This time, Tianchi also told me a lot about you going to Miaojiang. You're right. This is your responsibility, Lu Weishan said. Yang Ming and Xiao Qing talked for a while in Lu Weishan's house and then left. After all, it was very late. Lu Weishan and Aunt Chu also needed to rest. After returning home, Yang Ming spent the last night with the girls, so he cherished it very much. The next morning, Yang Ming said goodbye to his family and rushed to Donghai in Little Wang's car. This was also the second time that Little Wang sent Yang Ming to Las Vegas. The scene last time was still vaguely in his mind. It made Yang Ming a little emotional. Last time, because he was in a hurry, Little Wang's car was stopped because Xia Shui sent him to the airport. At that time, he and Xia Shui were a bit of a quarrelsome couple. They quarreled as soon as they met. But now, Xia Shui had become his wife. Thinking about it, it felt like a dream. Yang Ji last time's Xia also became your girlfriend? When Little Wang picked up Yang Ming at the villa, he saw Yang Ming's wives coming out to send him off, including Xia Shui. It was all thanks to her last time, said Little Wang. Yeah, or else I almost missed the plane. Yang Ming said, but now I see that you are much calmer than before. At that time, I didn't want you to miss the plane, so I didn't think so much. But now, Maybe I have driven for a long time, so I have some feelings. Little Wang said with some embarrassment. Now that I think about it, it is better to drive according to the law. Otherwise, it is also dangerous for the sake of speed. Nothing is more important than life. Driving safely is also responsible for yourself and the people in the car. Yes, you're right. If the plane is late, it can be changed, but you only have one life. Yang Ming returned from Yaojiang this time with some emotions. He didn't expect Little Wang to understand these principles. This made Yang Ming very gratified. Little Wang's mentality was already a qualified driver. No matter how urgent the matter was, it was not as important as life safety. However, this time, the highway was smooth all the way, and there were no obstacles. The two people soon arrived at Donghai International Airport. Yang Ming got out of the car and signaled that Little Wang could go back. He would do the next thing himself. From the international departure entrance, they entered the waiting hall. Yang Ming familiarly applied for the boarding pass and went to rest near the boarding gate. At 10:30 in the morning, Yang Ming successfully boarded the flight to Las Vegas. The plane stopped in Yinjing City, and there were no twists and turns. Yang Ming got off the plane, and it was Las Vegas. Coming out of the Las Vegas International Airport, Yang Ming got into a taxi waiting at the entrance of the airport. He said with familiarity, "Go to the Douglas Vast Hotel." This was the second time that Yang Ming came to Las Vegas. The hotel he stayed in was the hotel that Yang Ming stayed in last time, but this hotel had become Yang Ming's property. The domestic Douglas Vast Hotel was renamed by Yang Ming to the Ming Yang International Hotel, but this one in Las Vegas was also a compensation to Yang Ming by the Douglas family. Yang Ming did not change the name. This place was relatively far from Yang Ming. There was no way for Bao Sanli and Jing Xiaolu to manage it, so the management personnel here were still members of the Douglas family. However, the property rights here had fallen into the name of Huang Lele. The hotel's income was also remitted to Huang Lele's bank card. In fact, this was not good for the Douglas family at all. It was equivalent to working for Yang Ming for free. They still had to pay the manager's salary here. However, this was something that the Douglas family was more than happy to do. If the hotel here was managed well, it was equivalent to currying favor with Yang Ming. Therefore, it was impossible for non-core members of the Douglas family to be sent here to manage the hotel. The manager of this hotel was still Batterton, but Batterton's current status was no longer what it used to be. Originally, Batterton was just a small fry in the Douglas family. But now, because of his good relationship with Yang Ming, he had become one of the few elders in the Douglas family with a different surname. Not only did he have the dividends of the Douglas family's other properties, but his voice in the Douglas family was also very high. However, all of this was because of Yang Ming. Batterton also knew, but Yang Ming had not contacted him for a long time recently. He also did not ask about the hotel. There were already some dissenting voices within the family. The reason was very simple. They felt that Batterton was originally a small fry. His current status was entirely because of Yang Ming. Now that Yang Ming did not contact him, he could not be the link between the Douglas family and Yang Ming. Then, there was no need for him to be an elder anymore. The shares of the family's properties should also be taken back. It was already good enough for him to have such a year of glory. Chapter 2272. The Douglas family's intention was to let Batterton take the money and retire in his old age. However, the family master of the Douglas family did not do so because he did not know when Yang Ming would think of Batterton again. If Yang Ming were to ask about it and Batterton was not around, or if Batterton said a few bad words about the Douglas family, then what awaited the Douglas family would be a calamity. Sure enough, the family master of the Douglas family was very prescient because Yang Ming really came to the Douglas Hotel again. Soon, the taxi arrived at the parking lot in front of the Douglas Hotel. Yang Ming paid the fare, got out of the taxi, and walked into the lobby of the Douglas Hotel. "Hello, sir." After Yang Ming walked into the hotel, the hostess greeted him politely. "Sir, are you looking for accommodation?" "Yes, accommodation." Yang Ming nodded with a smile and said, "However, I want to find someone before I stay." "It's not a problem to find someone, but I'm afraid it's not possible to find accommodation. I'm sorry, sir. All the rooms here are full. There are no spare rooms, said the hostess apologetically. She saw that Yang Ming came in the ancestral car, and he looked unfamiliar, so she guessed that Yang Ming was not a previous guest of the hotel, but a newcomer. So, she asked to confirm it first. After hearing Yang Ming's affirmative answer, the hostess quickly explained. Because the annual International Jewelry Festival was about to start in a few days, the hotel was still designated as the designated hotel for the International Jewelry Festival, so it was already full and could no longer be open to the public. Oh, I can't stay again? Yang Ming was slightly stunned. How similar is this scene from a year ago? Yes, I'm sorry, sir. Our hotel is a designated hotel for the International Jewelry Festival, so it is already full of guests. There are no spare rooms, explained the hostess to Yang Ming apologetically. What? International Jewelry Festival? Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He didn't expect that the last time he came in time for the International Jewelry Festival. And this time, he came in time for the International Jewelry Festival again. Yes, sir. The receptionist nodded. Then I'll look for him first. Batterton, is he still here? Asked Yang Ming. The receptionist was stunned. She didn't expect that the person Yang Ming was looking for was their general manager, Batterton. Sir, do you know our boss? Yes, we're old acquaintances. Yang Ming nodded. Yes, sir. How should I address you? The receptionist asked. Just tell him that my surname is Yang. Yang Ming said. Okay, sir. Please wait a moment. I'll call our boss right away. The receptionist said. Yang Ming nodded, indicating that she could make the call. Yang Ming sat on the sofa in the hotel lobby for the time being. Batterton's life during this period could be said to be very comfortable. The Douglas family was not very well known in Las Vegas in the past. This was also the reason why Lang Gus Sr. of the Street Racer Gang did not give him face previously. However, since Yang Ming dealt with Lang Gus Sr. last year, all the major forces here knew that the Douglas Vast Hotel and the South City Casino had become the property of that ruthless person. Lang Gus Sr. was also very protective of these two properties, so those who coveted these two places did not dare to act rashly. Moreover, although Batterton was still the manager of this hotel in name, his identity was already a member of the Douglas family's Council of Elders. He also had the family's property dividends. However, all this was so good until a few days ago. Batterton's mood was not so good these days. This was because the family had sent news that they wanted him to retire. Of course, retirement was just an excuse. The family's real purpose was to deprive him of his status as a member of the Council of Elders. Naturally, he would no longer enjoy the family's property dividends. All of a sudden, it was as if Batterton had fallen from heaven to hell. He had lost all his glory and wealth. However, Batterton had no other way. He knew that the reason why Family Master Kaik gave him these was because he helped Yang Ming manage the property. However, Yang Ming had not asked about his affairs for so long. Even if Family Master Kaik and his backer, the third elder, supported him, the other members of the family's Council of Elders would have other ideas. After all, Batterton's dividends were equivalent to squeezing out their income. If Batterton retired, then Batterton's income would also return to the hands of the members of the Council of Elders. Looking at the beautiful and sexy female secretary, Batterton was not interested at all. He waved his hand and let the female secretary go out. He sighed and sat on the sofa, helplessly with his head raised. Before this, he was just a manager here. He did not have the status of a member of the Council of Elders, nor did he receive any dividends. But now, he was a little unwilling to lose what he had. Although the dividends he earned during this period were enough for him to live the rest of his life with dignity, he always felt unwilling. AI. Batterton sighed. The phone on the table rang. Batterton didn't want to answer at first, but the female secretary was kicked out by him. He could only pick up the phone himself. Hello, I'm Batterton. Mr. Batterton, I'm the hotel's greeter. There is an Asian surnamed Yang here. He said that he is an old acquaintance of yours and wants to see you, said the greeter. What? Surnamed Yang? Batterton jumped up from the sofa with a whoosh. He thought of a person who could change his fate. Thinking of this, Batterton immediately said, help me greet him. I'll be down right away. Right away. Don't be negligent. Yes. Although the greeter did not know why Batterton had such a huge reaction, she thought that this Asian surnamed Yang, who was not far away from her, was a very great person. That was why Batterton was like this. Mr. Yang, the boss said that he will be down right away. I will make you a cup of tea first. The greeter was naturally respectful to Yang Ming since she was instructed by Batterton. Okay, but you don't have to trouble yourself. Yang Ming said, just give me a bottle of mineral water. Yes, Mr. Yang. The greeter quickly went to get a bottle of mineral water and handed it to Yang Ming. Then, she respectfully retreated to the side, waiting for Yang Ming's other instructions. Batterton ran out of the elevator. Sure enough, he saw Yang Ming sitting on the sofa at a glance. He quickly ran over. I was wondering why the magpies kept chirping today. It turns out that Mr. Yang has graced us with his presence. It's such an honor. Chapter 2273. Are there any magpies here? Yang Ming glanced at Batterton and shrugged. Ugh. Batterton was a little embarrassed. Forget it. I see that you have put on weight again. You seem to be living a good life? Asked Yang Ming faintly. Good life. Batterton smiled bitterly. Thanks to Mr. Yang, it has been quite good during this time, but what? The hotel's profits have been handed over to me. Don't you have anything else to gain? Asked Yang Ming. However, the Douglas Vast Hotel's income was indeed high, and it increased month by month. It could be seen that Batterton worked very hard, and he probably didn't gain any more benefits from it. That's not it. How would I dare to touch Mr. Yang's money? Batterton shook his head quickly. It's my honor to serve Mr. Yang, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to serve Mr. Yang in the future. What's wrong? Are you going to die? Asked Yang Ming, baffled. AI. It's almost the same as dying. The family's elders suggested that I retire. Batterton smiled bitterly. Previously, because of Mr. Yang, not only was I allowed to stay here to help Mr. Yang manage the business, but I also became a member of the family's elders and received dividends from the family business. But recently, someone wants to impeach me and ask me to retire. Oh, I know about this. Yang Ming knew that Batterton was complaining to him, but Yang Ming was never stingy with people like Batterton who could work for him well. For Yang Ming, letting Batterton continue to live a good life was just a matter of a phone call. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Batterton was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect Yang Ming to agree so easily. Mr. Yang, thank you for your kindness. I will work hard to manage the Douglas Vast Hotel, as always. Batterton said. Okay, I'll call Kaik now, said Yang Ming as he took out his phone and dialed Kaik's number. Mr. Yang. When Kaik saw Yang Ming's phone number, he suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He vaguely guessed something, but he still didn't dare to refuse Yang Ming's call. Kaik, it's me. I'm at the Douglas Vast Hotel in Las Vegas. I heard that I won't be able to see Batterton the next time I come. You want to replace him? Is there such a situation? Yang Ming asked directly. Where did this rumor come from? Which son of a bitch started this rumor? That was impossible. It's not like our Douglas family doesn't want to live anymore. How would we dare to casually replace someone that Mr. Yang thinks highly of? That's absolutely impossible. Kai cursed to the heavens. Oh, that must be a rumor. Yang Ming said, then it's fine. This is good news. Otherwise, I might visit you personally after I'm done with the things here. As for the person who started the rumor, you'd better find him. Otherwise, I'll personally look for him. That would be a completely different problem. Yes. Family Master Kaik was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He scolded his second elder in his heart. This guy is really looking for trouble. He almost brought a disaster to the family again. After Yang Ming hung up the phone, Kaik urgently convened a family meeting of the Douglas family. At the meeting, Kaik didn't say a word. He just played the recording of the previous phone call. The second elder's face turned ashen immediately. The members of the Elder Council who supported the second elder previously were also silent at this moment. They didn't dare to say a word. Second elder, you are old and confused. You can retire now, Kaik said faintly. Does everyone agree? Agree. Of course, we support. We firmly support the family master's decision. These elder council members who used to support the second elder and wanted to share Batterton's dividends had now completely turned to support the Kaik family master. They all knew about Yang Ming's ability. If they disobeyed Yang Ming at this time, it would be another matter whether the Douglas family would still exist tomorrow. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. If the tree is gone, why would they care about such a small share of the profits? Although the second elder was unwilling, he didn't know what to say. Second elder, you have also received a lot of family dividends over the years. Now, you should retire safely and enjoy life. This is the family master's protection for you. Otherwise, if you still sit in this position, I'm afraid that not only will Yang Ming not let you go, but he will also vent his anger on our whole family, said the third elder. I understand. The second elder sighed. I was too greedy. It was all my fault for being greedy. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. It was useless for him to regret. I think we should give the dividends under the second elder's name to Batterton. I'll call Mr. Yang back now. Kaik didn't dare to neglect. He had to report the results to Yang Ming as soon as possible in order to avoid any unexpected events. No one objected to Kaik's proposal. The dividends under the second elder's name were a hot potato. Whoever took it at this moment would be unlucky, so it was better to give it to Batterton. This family meeting was very short. It started quickly and ended quickly. The second elder abdicated in dejection. Kaik also dialed Yang Ming's phone. Yang Ming was naturally satisfied with Kaik's handling result. Yang Ming was just scaring Kaik before, but he didn't expect Kaik to take it so seriously. Yang Ming naturally couldn't say anything more. He told Batterton the result, but Batterton was a little flattered. Mr. Yang, I'm ashamed to accept this bonus. How about this? I'll keep the previous bonus, and this extra bonus will be remitted to your wife, Madame Huang Lele, together with the annual profits of the Douglas Vast Hotel. How about that? Batterton wasn't stupid, nor was he greedy. He knew that this was the only way to make Yang Ming support him. All right, do as you see fit. Although Yang Ming didn't care about such a small amount of money, he cared about Batterton's attitude. Now it seemed that Batterton did a good job, which made Yang Ming very satisfied. Thank you, Mr. Yang. Batterton gave Yang Ming the money, but he still thanked Yang Ming, which made Yang Ming very satisfied. Okay, give me a few rooms. Give me 3 rooms first. Yang Ming calculated. 1 room for Dong Jun, 1 for Chu Pingzhan, and 1 for Yiwan. Including his own room, there were exactly 3 rooms. Okay, I will open the special VIP rooms. Batterton reserved 5 VIP rooms. One of them was for Yang Ming's exclusive use, and the other 4 rooms were for emergency use in case of emergencies. Yang Ming only asked for 3 rooms, so it wasn't a problem. Chapter 2274. Otherwise, Batterton would have to empty out his office. Of course, if he was asked to move out of the office, he would be happy. He would rather move to the corridor to work and serve Yang Ming well. Okay, there's nothing else for the time being. I'll look for you again. Yang Ming nodded and said. VIP Presidential Room 1 was the room Yang Ming used to live in. After that, it was cleaned up and no one lived in it anymore, including the members of the Douglas family's Elder Council. Even Kaik himself only stayed in VIP Presidential Suite 2 when he came here. He didn't dare to stay in Suite 1 casually. It was the same room as last time. After Yang Ming entered the room, he didn't contact Dong Jun first because Dong Jun said that he wanted to change his number. So, even if Yang Ming called now, he probably wouldn't be able to find Dong Jun and could easily bring trouble to him. So, Yang Ming still patiently waited for Dong Jun to take the initiative to contact him. However, Yang Ming could call Chu Pingzhan and want her first. Thinking of this, Yang Ming dialed Chu Pingzhan's number that Chu Sanwa gave him. However, when he dialed the phone, the other party gave a notification that the phone was turned off. Yang Ming couldn't help but be shocked. In theory, Chu Sanwa should have told Chu Pingzhan and the others that he was coming to help them. How could his phone be turned off? However, to rule out the possibility of the phone running out of battery, Yang Ming dialed Wan Er's phone again. The other side was still turned off. This made Yang Ming a little suspicious. What happened to these two people? Yang Ming had no choice but to call Lu Weishan. He didn't have Chu Sanwa's number, but he thought that Chu Sanwa should still be waiting for news at Lu Weishan's house. Big Ming. Aunt Chu answered the phone. As soon as she picked up the phone, Aunt Chu said hurriedly, "Big Ming, I was just about to call you. Something happened." Something happened? What happened? Yang Ming's heart sank. Sure enough, the thing he didn't want to see the most had already happened. Earlier, Chu Pingzhan called us and said that those people seemed to have found them, and that they had to turn off their phones before they could escape. Those people probably know their phone numbers by now, so they had to turn off their phones. Aunt Chu said, "Aunt Chu, but I haven't gotten in touch with them yet. What should we do?" Yang Ming frowned. He had his X-ray vision, but finding a single person in Las Vegas was an extremely difficult task. Plus, Pingzhan and the others might not even be in Las Vegas. "All right, I wanted to tell Chu Pingzhan about you going to help, but I didn't have the time to tell him. I just said that Langa Jr. was protecting them and hung up." Aunt Chu thought for a while and said, "I wanted to ask more, but I couldn't call back." Langa Jr. Yang Ming was stunned. He suddenly thought of something and said, "Okay, Aunt Chu, I should know how to find them now. Let's not talk about it for now. The situation should be very urgent." "Okay." Aunt Chu didn't say anything more. She also knew the seriousness of the situation and didn't dare to delay. After hanging up the phone, Yang Ming dialed Batterton's number directly. Yang Ming remembered that after he helped Pingzhan and wanted to settle the matter with Langa Sr. and Langa Jr. last time, Yang Ming seemed to remember that Langa Jr. ran to school to be Pingzhan and Wan Er's personal bodyguard. If this was really the case, then Langa Jr. should be by Pingzhan's side when they were in trouble this time. Therefore, what Yang Ming needed to do now was to get Langa Jr. as contact information. "Mr. Yang, is there anything I can help you with?" Batterton had been waiting in the office for Yang Ming's call. At this time, he picked up the phone and quickly asked in fear and trepidation, "Do you have Langa Jr.'s phone number?" Yang Ming didn't talk nonsense with Batterton because of the urgency of the matter. "Langa Jr.? No, but can I have Langa Sr.'s phone number?" asked Batterton. "Give it to me," said Yang Ming. "Okay, Langa Sr.'s phone number is..." Batterton reported a group of numbers as he spoke. "Okay." After Yang Ming wrote it down, he hung up the phone directly. Batterton was a little confused. He didn't know why Yang Ming was looking for Langa Jr., but since Yang Ming didn't say, he wouldn't ask more. After Yang Ming got the number, he dialed Langa Sr.'s phone number directly. "Hello." Langa Sr. looked at the unfamiliar number on the phone. He didn't want to answer, but he was afraid of missing an important call, so he still answered. This was because Langa Jr. was asking for help just now. He had sent a large number of gang members to support, so he must keep in touch with Langa Jr. at all times. "Langa Sr.? I'm Yang Ming." Yang Ming said directly, "I'm looking for Langa Jr. for something. Give me his phone number." Yang Ming. "You're that great god Yang, Mr. Yang." When Langa Sr. heard Yang Ming's name, he was excited for no reason. If Yang Ming is here, then everything will be easy to solve. As long as Yang Ming appears, then everything will be fine. "I'm Yang Ming, but I'm not that great god Yang." Yang Ming said, "Your son and Chu Chunze are very likely to be in danger. Quickly give me his contact information." "Ah, yes." Langa Sr. originally wanted to explain and let Yang Ming help, but he didn't expect that Yang Ming already knew that his son and Chunze were in danger and was ready to help. This saved Langa Sr. the time to talk nonsense was saved. Thinking of this, Langa Sr. quickly told Yang Ming Langa Jr.'s phone number and their current location. "Mr. Yang, Langa Jr. just called to ask for help." They were besieged and blocked in an abandoned garbage treatment plant in the suburbs in the east. "I have sent people to help, but it is said that the other party is very powerful." "Okay, I got it." Yang Ming didn't listen to Langa Sr.'s explanation of how powerful the people blocking them were. How can a cultivator not be powerful? Yang Ming naturally knew how powerful a cultivator was, so Yang Ming's top priority was to get there as soon as possible. If he was late, there might be great danger. In order to save time, after hanging up the phone, Yang Ming opened the door of the room's balcony and jumped directly from the hotel's balcony window on the 20th floor. With the Jean Gang voodoo, Yang Ming was not afraid of any damage caused by falling downstairs. Chapter 2275. It was said that Yang Ming's super Herculean voodoo wouldn't die, even if he was hit by a meteorite or a bomb, let alone jumping off a building. Sure enough, not only was Yang Ming fine after falling to the ground, but he also didn't even fall down with his superb Qigong footwork. Yang Ming's jump was more eye-catching than the special effects in movies. However, no one noticed when Yang Ming jumped down. After Yang Ming landed, no one knew where he jumped from, so no one paid attention to him. While calling Lang Ge Jr., Yang Ming got into a taxi that was waiting at the entrance of the Douglas Hotel. He said to the driver, "Go to the abandoned garbage treatment plant in the eastern suburbs." There was an old garbage treatment plant in the eastern suburbs. Although it had been out of use for a long time, the taxi driver was familiar with it. After listening to Yang Ming's instructions, he started the car directly and drove to the destination. "Hello." Lang Ge Jr. picked up the phone with sweat all over his forehead. He, Peng Zhan, and Wan were hiding in the dirty and smelly garbage. However, there was no other way. This place was currently the safest hiding place. Fortunately, Lang Ge Jr. was from the street racer gang. His driving skills in the city were top-notch. That was how he got rid of the people who were chasing him and hid in this garbage dump. In the city, the people on the other side didn't dare to make a move too openly. They only chased after them, which gave Lang Ge Jr. an opportunity. The terrain advantage and the advantage of driving skills. Another thing was that he knew this garbage dump. This used to be the street racer gang's territory. However, although the car was still far away, the people on the other side would definitely find them one by one. Although Lang Ge Jr. had already contacted Lang Ge Sr. and asked him to send elite reinforcements, they were hiding in the garbage dump. After Peng Zhan told him the identity and strength of the people on the other side, as well as their own identity and strength, Lang Ge Jr. suddenly felt a chill in his heart. What kind of people did Peng Zhan and Wan offend? These people were actually willing masters. He was afraid that even the elites sent by his father wouldn't be able to fight against these people with guns. However, Lang Ge Jr. was now on the same side as Chu Peng Zhan and Wan. Moreover, they got along well during this period of time, so Lang Ge Jr. didn't regret being in such a dangerous situation with them. He was just thinking about how to get out of this situation. If his father's men weren't their opponents, then they would find this place sooner or later, and he wouldn't be their opponents. Peng Zhan and Wan would be in danger by then. At this moment, Lang Ge Jr.'s phone vibrated. Lang Ge Jr. didn't look at the caller ID in the garbage and picked up the phone directly. "Lang Ge Jr., I am Yang Ming. Where are you?" "I'm heading to your place, but the hotel I'm staying at is a bit far from your location." The Douglas Vast Hotel, where Yang Ming stayed, and the garbage treatment plant in the eastern suburbs were a bit opposite. They were in two completely different directions. "Ah, it's Mr. Yang. Great, we're in the garbage treatment plant. There are 3 piles of garbage. We're hiding in the middle pile of garbage. It's great that you're here. With you here, we can definitely deal with those people." Lang Ge Jr. was overjoyed when he heard Yang Ming's voice. With Yang Ming's help, they were confident in dealing with those people. He had seen how powerful Yang Ming was with his own eyes. "What's wrong?" Seeing Lang Ge Jr.'s excited expression, Peng Zhan couldn't help but ask, "Do you have a good idea?" "It's Mr. Yang. Mr. Yang is here. We're saved," Lang Ge Jr. said excitedly. "Mr. Yang?" Peng Zhan was stunned. He didn't realize who Mr. Yang was. "It's Yang Ming, Mr. Yang. In the beginning, you and I met because of Mr. Yang," Lang Ge Jr. explained quickly. "Ah, it's him." Peng Zhan immediately knew who Mr. Yang was after Lang Ge Jr. said that. "Why is he here? Is he here to help us? He's very powerful. If he's willing to help, we might still have hope." Hearing that Yang Ming was here, Peng Zhan was very excited. His originally sad expression became more hopeful. However, as soon as this expectation appeared, Wan poured a basin of cold water on his head. "Even if he's here, I'm afraid he's not their opponent." Wan smiled bitterly and said, Pengzhan, you don't know how powerful they are. They're not comparable to ordinary warriors. They don't appear easily, so no matter how I describe them, you won't understand how powerful they are. That Mr. Yang, when he helped us, I also knew that he was very powerful, but although he's very powerful, it's only limited to the secular world. At our level, his martial arts can only be considered very shallow. Speaking of this, on her side, she didn't want to destroy Pengzhan and Lang Ge Jr.'s confidence, but this was the truth. Otherwise, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. As for the name she called Pengzhan, since her identity had been revealed to Lang Ge Jr., she didn't need to hide it anymore. She no longer used the identity of Chun Zhe and Tao Linfang. Pengzhan and Lang Ge Jr. were shocked when they heard Wan Er's words. They said in shock, "Really? It can't be. Even Mr. Yang can't do anything. Then Mr. Yang's martial arts." Wan Er helplessly shook her head. "It's not as powerful as my martial arts before it was sealed. And this time, it should be the Grand Elder who personally led the team. Although elderly, this elder who has a good relationship with me also came along. In front of the Grand Elder, he doesn't have much authority to speak. And the Grand Elder is many, many times more powerful than me. Mr. Yang, how could he be his opponent?" Then, after Pengzhan heard this, he was very disappointed and worried. Then if Mr. Yang comes, wouldn't it be the same as harming him? That's right. We should inform him in advance and tell him not to come. It's futile even if he comes. He might even die. On her side. Then I'll call him now. Lang Ge Jr. picked up the phone disappointedly. Just as he was about to make the call, suddenly there was a sound of a car near the garbage dump. The three of them heard the sound of a car and were shocked. Chapter 2276. Don't fight first. Someone is coming. Warner said helplessly. Although she was worried about Yang Ming, if she spoke now, she might be discovered. So, she said, "Send him a message." "Okay." Lang Ge nodded and quickly wrote a message to Yang Ming, telling him not to come and find them because the opponent was too strong and he wasn't a match for them. Although Lang Ge felt sorry for not letting Yang Ming come, he also knew that Wan Er was doing it for Yang Ming's sake. She didn't want to drag Yang Ming into this. Yang Ming was in the taxi when he received Lang Ge's message. He looked at the content and was slightly stunned. Lang Ge was very happy that he was going to help before. Why did he not let him go in the blink of an eye? Yang Ming then realized that Lang Ge was afraid that he wasn't a match for the people coming. Looking at the message in his hand, Yang Ming smiled and shook his head. If it was before Yang Ming went to Miaojiang to carry out the mission, he might not be a match for the people from the Dark Palace. But now, Yang Ming had the Super Jin Gang Gu and the incomplete version of the Vigor Gu. It could be said that even if the ancient sect's Sky class masters came, they wouldn't be able to do anything to Yang Ming. Maybe Yang Ming couldn't do anything to them, but they definitely couldn't do anything to Yang Ming. This way, Yang Ming had a bargaining chip to talk and negotiate with them. So, Yang Ming wasn't ready to give up. He had promised Chu Huifang and Chu Sanhua, so he had to help them do this. In the abandoned junkyard, Chu Pengzhan, Wan Er, and Lang Ge heard the sound of the car stopping and the door opening and closing. They quickly stopped talking, looked at each other, and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. The sound of footsteps could be clearly heard in the empty space of the land. Pengzhan and the others' hearts skipped a beat. "Wan Er, there's no need to hide. I can already feel the aura on your body. I know you're here." A cold voice rang out. This person was Elder Chui of the Dark Palace's Law Enforcement Hall. "Although you sealed all of your true chi before you left, don't think that I won't be able to find you. You have the Dark Phoenix bloodline, which is unique to the Dark Palace. There's no point in hiding." "That's right, Wan Er, don't be so obstinate. If you get rid of the little vile spawn in your womb now and return with me, young sect master might let bygones be bygones and take you in as a concubine." The one who spoke was the 9th elder of the Heavenly Pill sect, another ancient sect that had a marriage agreement with Wan Er. You can only obtain the Dark Phoenix bloodline inheritance from the Dark Knight Palace by taking our special bloodline preserving pill when you have a child with our young sect leader. Otherwise, if you delay the important matter in 20 years, you will be the sinner of the ancient sect for all eternity. The people from that place won't let you go either. Yi-Wan-Er's original engagement was to marry this Heavenly Dan sect's young sect master. The reason for marrying the Heavenly Dan sect's young sect master was because the Dark Knight Palace's Dark Phoenix bloodline in her body was not very pure. However, through a kind of pill, her future child could obtain a pure bloodline. However, the prerequisite was that the child's father must also be a cultivator. Moreover, this pill was priceless. The Heavenly Pill sect couldn't just give it to Yi-Wan-Er for free. This marriage agreement made the Heavenly Pill sect's young sect leader very satisfied. However, he didn't expect Yi-Wan-Er to suddenly run away from the marriage. This wasn't just a matter of the Heavenly Pill sect's face, but also a matter of the important matter in the future. Although that place was looking for other inheritors, if Yi-Wan-Er could obtain the inheritance, then they wouldn't have to spend so much effort to find others. However, when Yi-Wan-Er left, she sealed her strength, causing trouble for the Dark Palace's search. Of course, this was also because of Elder Li, who was very close to Yi-Wan-Er, causing the search to be so slow. This gave Pingzhan and Yi-Wan-Er more time to interact. However, this time, it was because the Great Elder activated the Dark Palace's most valuable treasure, the Dark Phoenix Bloodline Guide Stone. After this treasure was used, it could point out the location of the person with the Dark Phoenix bloodline. This treasure was originally only used to find a new inheritor when the Dark Phoenix bloodline was lost. This was because every time this treasure was used, there needed to be at least 3 Sky-class late-phase peak masters to activate the pure chi in their body. Moreover, after activating this treasure, they wouldn't be able to return to their peak within a year. They could only stay at Sky-class late phase and would need to rest for a year before they could return to their peak again. Every time this treasure was used, they would need to wait for 20 years before they could activate it again. This was why the Dark Palace didn't activate this treasure to search for Yi-Wan-Er in the beginning. After that, the Great Elder finally convinced Yi-Wan-Er's father, the current Dark Palace Master Yi Guxing, and the old Dark Palace Master, who was Yi Guxing's mother, Wan-Er's grandmother, as well as a Sky-class late-phase peak master from the Heavenly Dan School. The 3 of them activated their pure chi and activated the Dark Phoenix Bloodline Guide Stone. Only then did they find Yi-Wan-Er's specific location. After all, this was related to the Dark Palace's future status and that big event 20 years later. So, although Yi Guxing loved his daughter very much, for the sake of the Dark Palace and that big event, he had no choice but to agree to the Great Elder's suggestion. However, what he meant was for Yi-Wan-Er to leave quietly after giving birth to the child. However, the Great Elder and the Heavenly Dan School's elder acted on their own accord and prepared to kill Pingzhan, this little bastard who made the Heavenly Dan School's young master cuckold, and the little bastard in Yi-Wan-Er's stomach. Yi-Wan-Er was shocked. She didn't expect them to find her because of the Dark Phoenix bloodline in her body. So they used that treasure. Thinking up to here, Yi-Wan-Er's heart sank. It seemed that she couldn't escape this time. That's right, Wan-Er. The Heavenly Dan School's young master, the Heavenly Dan School's knowledge star, has already promised that as long as you abort this child and come back with us, although you can't be the main wife, you can still be the second wife. Elder Chui said, although the palace master had told them to let Yi-Wan-Er give birth to this child before returning, he was under the Great Elder's command and listened to him more. Plus, the Heavenly Dan School's 9th Elder also said that this child couldn't be born. They had to use medicine to abort the child to ensure that the Dark Phoenix bloodline in Yi-Wan-Er's body was complete. Otherwise, a part of the Dark Phoenix bloodline would be taken away by the newborn child. Even if they returned to the Heavenly Dan School, the newborn child wouldn't be able to guarantee the purity of the bloodline. Chapter 2277. Of course, these words couldn't be said to Yi Guxing. Otherwise, Yi Guxing would feel bad for his daughter and might give up the big plan 20 years later. This was what the Grand Elder didn't want to see. She wanted to see the glory of the Dark Palace. What's wrong, Yi-Wan-Er? Do you need me to catch you personally? The 9th Elder saw that Yi-Wan didn't move and sneered. Don't be so shameless. You think you're a good person? You're just a withered flower. You on her side. She didn't expect that she couldn't escape in the end. Was she going to die here? Killing Pengjan and aborting her child? Why not just kill her as well? Although she didn't know Pengjan for long, their hearts were already tightly connected. It was impossible for her to remarry someone else. It was better for her to die. I'm afraid we can't escape. Yuan looked at Pengjan and said sadly, without you, without the child, I'd rather die. Wonder, don't worry. If worst comes to worst, I'll die with you. Pengjan finally thought it through. He held Yuan-er's hand tightly and said gently, Yuan-er, it's a blessing that we can go through life and death together. We're not their opponent, so there's no need to fight back. Yuan didn't expect Pengjan to say these words. People said that husband and wife were birds in the same forest. They would fly away in the face of danger. However, Pengjan still didn't leave and didn't want to push her out. Instead, he ran for his life. This was very commendable. Langa Jr., it's fine if the two of us go out. You don't need to be involved in our matters. Pengjan looked at Langa Jr. and said seriously, You hide here and come out after we leave. Langa Jr. protected Pengjan and Yuan at first because he wanted to please Yang Ming. However, after interacting with Pengjan and Yuan, the three of them became good friends. He also became best friends with Pengjan. Langa Jr. was from a gang and valued loyalty. How could he agree at this time? No, I'll go out with you. We came together. If we're going to die, we'll die together. If we're going to live together, we'll live together. Who knows, we might still have a chance. Why are you doing this? Warner bitterly smiled and said, There definitely won't be a chance. You don't understand their strength. The three of us can't fight against them. Don't underestimate them because they only have a few people, but okay, it's a deal. Langa Jr. didn't wait for Yuan to say anything and took the lead to climb out of the trash heap. Huh, there was another person? Kid, did you lead them away? Elder Chui frowned. He didn't expect that there would be a third person in the garbage dump. Not bad. Langa Jr. nodded and said, I don't care where you are from, but I want to give you a piece of advice. This is Las Vegas, not your territory. It's best if you leave some leeway when you do things, or else you won't be able to deal with the encirclement of the three great gangs so easily. Oh, are you threatening us? Elder Chui looked at Langa Jr. and found it funny. He didn't make a move in the downtown area because the ancient people wouldn't make a move on ordinary people if it wasn't necessary. Of course, Pengjan couldn't be treated as an ordinary person. He was the enemy of the entire Dark Palace and Heavenly Elixir sect. That's right. As the saying goes, two fists can't fight against four hands. My street racer gang and a few gangs that are on good terms with us have more than 10,000 people. If you want to make a move, you better think about the consequences. Langu Jr. said. Consequences? Elder Chui smiled. He looked at Elder Gio of Heavenly Elixir sect and asked faintly, Do you think that two fists can't fight against four hands? For hands? Don't mention four hands. Even 100 or 10,000 hands wouldn't matter, Elder Gio said arrogantly. Don't move, you are surrounded. At this time, two large black trucks with a racing car logo stopped at the entrance of the junkyard. 30 to 40 big men with submachine guns jumped out of the trucks. Two people came out of the front passenger seat of the trucks, carrying rocket launchers on their shoulders. These people were all Langus Sr.'s subordinates. This time, Langus Sr. had made up his mind to bring all the heavy weapons of the gang. Fortunately, this was the suburbs, and there weren't many people, so there wouldn't be any problems. This is your trump card? Elder Chui looked at the men in black with disdain and asked faintly. At this moment, Pengjan and Wan came out of the garbage dump hand in hand. Wan-er's face changed slightly when she saw Langu Sr.'s people. Although these people were holding weapons in their hands and looked very powerful, Wan-er knew that these weapons couldn't cause much damage to Elder Chui and Elder Gio. Langa Jr., I appreciate your kindness. Now, take your people and leave. Wan said, Ancient sects don't attack ordinary people easily. Wan, you don't have to provoke me. Ancient sects don't attack ordinary people easily. It's not impossible for your friend to leave. It's just that he doesn't seem to believe it. He is very arrogant. Does he think that he can deal with us with these weapons? Elder Chui wasn't very interested in killing Lang Ge Jr. if it wasn't necessary. He didn't want to have a conflict with a local gang. After all, they still had to take the plane back. This was other people's territory. If something happened to Lang Ge Jr., they might not even be able to board the plane smoothly. Although they could also leave the country in other ways, it was now insignificant to let Lang Ge Jr. go. No matter how fast you are, can you be faster than a bullet? Lang Ge Jr. really didn't believe it. Although the only thing that can't be defeated is speed, can you be faster than a bullet? The only thing that can't be defeated is speed? Have you watched too many dramas? Elder Chui curled his lips in disdain and said, I don't need to be faster than a bullet. Even if you shoot me, I won't dodge. You can't do anything to me. Warner, tell him why. A normal bullet can't hurt a Sky-class master with pure chi protection. Warner sighed and said, Moreover, even if he wants to dodge, he can dodge it. His speed is indeed faster than a bullet. Lang Ge Jr. was stunned. He didn't expect the enemy to be so strong. It seemed that he really underestimated the person in front of him. Chapter 2278. All right, even if you can dodge bullets and aren't afraid of bullets, aren't you afraid of rocket launchers? Lang Ge said fiercely, rocket launchers and bullets are different. I admit that the rocket launcher can cause some damage to us, but when you launch the rocket launcher, I can dodge it in time. Elder Chui said lightly, guns have no eyes. I can dodge it, but I don't know if you guys can dodge it at such a close distance. Don't let us hurt you guys by accident. Lang Ge Jr.'s face changed slightly. It seemed that Elder Chui was more difficult to deal with than he thought. He wasn't scared at all. Indeed, Elder Chui was right. In such a situation, in such a small area, if they were to use the rocket launcher, they might accidentally injure their own people. The rocket launcher was actually used to scare people. It couldn't be used at such a close distance. He didn't expect Elder Chui to point it out so easily. This put Lang Ge Jr. in a dilemma. Lang Ge Jr., thank you for this. Peng Zhan said, this is between me and Warner. There's no need to drag you into this. Yeah. Lang Ge Jr., take your people and leave first. I know them better than you. Warner said, if there's hope, I won't give up, but now. Lang Ge Jr. actually knew that his efforts were useless now. The other party wasn't afraid of the weapons in their hands at all. It sounded like a joke. Who wasn't afraid of guns? However, the truth was in front of him. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Elder Chui waved his hand casually. The man in black closest to him didn't know what happened, but the submachine gun in his hand was in Elder Chui's hand. Elder Chui casually rubbed it twice, and the submachine gun turned into a pile of scrap iron. He casually threw it at his feet. Everyone present, except for Warner, was shocked. Even Peng Zhan, who was mentally prepared, was shocked. Terrifying, it was simply too terrifying. The strength of these people was far beyond his expectations. Are you trying to scare a child? A cold voice sounded. The voice was filled with disdain and ridicule. The owner of this voice was naturally Yang Ming. Both Elder Chui and Elder Jiao were stunned. Their hearts were filled with shock. They turned around subconsciously and saw a young man about the same age as Chu Pingzhan and Wan walking toward them calmly. However, the boy's expression and temperament were much more mature than Pengzhan and Wan'er's. He had the aura of a superior being. Of course, this wasn't the reason why they were shocked. The reason why they were shocked was that they actually didn't notice Yang Ming's arrival. Yang Ming was an assassin. Although he wasn't an internal martial artist, he practiced the butterfly micro-step, which was similar to external martial arts. It could be said that Yang Ming's Qigong had reached the peak. Even if the two of them were heaven stage masters, it was normal that they didn't notice Yang Ming's existence. Moreover, Yang Ming hadn't practiced the internal cultivation method that Sun Sikong and Mo Kongwen had given him. There was no fluctuation of true qi on his body. It was normal that these two couldn't sense him. However, Elder Chui and Elder Jiao felt that something was amiss. This person in front of them, could he be a master? Because Yang Ming's appearance at this time was consistent with the aura of a master. However, They couldn't sense Yang Ming's existence. This made Elder Chui and Elder Jiu feel a little guilty. Either Yang Ming was an ordinary person, or Yang Ming was a master. However, this master was a little too young, wasn't he? Moreover, even if he was a master, he should have true qi fluctuations on his body, right? Who are you? Elder Chui asked subconsciously. Langa Jr., you really didn't disappoint me. Under such circumstances, you still didn't give up. You are a loyal person. Yang Ming was very satisfied with Langa Jr.'s performance and complimented him. Brother Yang. Langa Jr. didn't expect that Yang Ming would still come, even though he didn't let Yang Ming come. Wait a moment. After the things here are settled, I will give you some benefits. Yang Ming nodded to Langa Jr. Chu Pengzhan, and Wanderer looked at each other and saw a trace of a bitter smile in each other's eyes. Yang Ming came, but it seemed that Yang Ming was a little arrogant and didn't understand the situation. However, Chu Pengzhan and Wanderer naturally wouldn't laugh at Yang Ming. After all, Yang Ming came to help them, so they were grateful. However, they also wanted to find an opportunity to hint Yang Ming that the situation here wasn't very simple. It wasn't easy to solve. Solve? Do you think that the situation here can be solved easily? Elder Chui was amused by Yang Ming's big words. Yang Ming didn't have any intention to respond to him. He pretended not to hear his two questions in a row, which made Elder Chui a little angry. I'm talking to you. Who are you? Elder Chui asked sternly. Yang Ming still didn't have any intention to answer him. Step by step, he walked towards Chu Pengzhan and Wanderer. When he passed by the iron ball that Elder Chui had crumpled, Yang Ming didn't know if it was intentional or not, but he stepped on it. The iron ball was turned into a metal pancake by Yang Ming's foot. Yang Ming's footsteps didn't stop. He walked over as if he was walking on flat ground. Do you think that doing this gives you a sense of achievement? That you can show off how strong and awesome you are? Yang Ming walked to Chu Pengzhan's side and turned around to look at Elder Chui indifferently. You? Elder Chui looked at the iron ball that had turned into a metal pancake on the ground. His face changed slightly. What Yang Ming did was much more difficult than crumpling the iron ball into a metal pancake with both hands. Exerting force with both hands and stepping on it like Yang Ming was walking with only one foot. It was a completely different thing. Yang Ming was really walking. He didn't use any force, nor did he use any force to step on it. So, Yang Ming was completely relying on his hard feet and powerful strength to turn the iron ball into a metal pancake. There was no chance of him using any tricks. A physical master? Elder Jiu's face changed slightly. He didn't feel a trace of qi from Yang Ming's body. So, the only explanation he could think of was that Yang Ming wasn't a spiritual master. He was a physical master. Or maybe he was a physical master who specialized in leg techniques. However, from what he could see, Yang Ming's level was something that a mystic class physical master could do. If it was someone who specialized in leg techniques, even a golden class would be able to do it. Chapter 2279. Of course, he didn't care about golden and mystic class physical masters. His expression changed slightly. What was strange was that there was a practitioner here. Kid, this is Dark Palace and Heavenly Elixir Sect's territory. Which sect are you from? Don't cause trouble for the Dragon King Temple. Elder Chui looked at Yang Ming and asked. Since Yang Ming was a practitioner, he had to figure out Yang Ming's background. Although it seemed that Yang Ming's strength couldn't be too high, what if Yang Ming was a disciple of some ancient sect? If he hurt Yang Ming, his master would come and find him. It wouldn't be worth it to make an enemy out of Dark Palace and Heavenly Elixir Sect. You don't have to test me. I'm not from an ancient sect. Yang Ming said indifferently. I've never heard of Dark Palace or Heavenly Elixir Sect. I'm not interested in hearing about them. You better go back to where you came from. I don't have time to waste with you. I'm here for an important matter. I don't have time to play around with you. Good, very good. Elder Chui smiled coldly. He waved his hand and said, Since you're so full of yourself, I'll send you on your way first. Since Yang Ming didn't belong to any sect, Elder Chui could kill him without any hesitation. He didn't want to kill Langgood Jr. because he didn't want to anger the local sects and bring trouble to his border. But now, a small physical practitioner came knocking on his door. Elder Chui was worried that he didn't have a place to show his power. He wanted to scare Langgood Jr. by killing Yang Ming so that he would retreat and leave with his people. As for Pingzhan and Wan he naturally wanted to bring them back to the Grand Elder. Of course, although he had the power to kill Pingzhan, it would be too easy for him to just kill him like that. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Chui attacked. He couldn't figure out Yang Ming's strength, so in order to kill him in one hit, he activated his inner chi and fully displayed his sky-class strength. A fierce aura broke out of his body and turned into a fire dragon. It circled around his right arm, and he punched at Yang Ming. Fire Dragon Fist 11th style. This was the martial skill of a Heaven Stage Master. It was also the strongest martial skill that Elder Chui had mastered. His goal was to kill Yang Ming in one move. This person who appeared out of nowhere and challenged his authority, naturally, he couldn't let him live. However, Yang Ming didn't dodge. He just stood there as if he didn't put Elder Chui in his eyes. Or perhaps Elder Chui's speed was so fast that he didn't have time to react. In short, Elder Chui's punch landed on Yang Ming's chest and made a loud noise. Bang! Elder Chui's mouth curved into a smile. From his point of view, Yang Ming was definitely going to die. After all, even if Yang Ming was a Sky-class early stage master, he was still going to die if he took the attack without any preparation. Moreover, from Elder Chui's point of view, Yang Ming wasn't a Sky-class master. At most, he was a Mystic-class master. In Jianghu, the total number of Sky-class masters was less than 3 digits. Elder Chui knew all of them. He could almost see Yang Ming vomiting blood and dying when he punched out. But the reality was too much for him to accept. This was because the scene that he imagined did not happen at this moment. Yang Ming did not fly out as he expected, nor did he bleed out. Instead, he stood there indifferently with a hint of sarcasm at the corner of his mouth. However, this was the last smile that Elder Chui saw in this world. He didn't have time to ask, nor did he have time to do anything else, before he heard a muffled sound. After that, he didn't know anything else. This was because his head had been blown up by Yang Ming's punch. Elder Chui was a Sky-class master. In theory, if he used Qi to protect his body, Yang Ming wouldn't be able to kill a Sky-class early-stage master with just one punch, even if he used the simplified version of the Herculean voodoo. But Elder Chui didn't use Qi to protect himself. All of his Qi was concentrated in his right fist. He wanted to kill Yang Ming with one punch, so he used up all of his Qi. He didn't think that Yang Ming would be able to counterattack after taking his punch, but now he couldn't think about it anymore. All of this had become an unsolved mystery. Elder Chui died with his eyes wide open. What the hell? Yang Ming wiped the blood off his hands and kicked Elder Chui's body into the trash. A generation of Dark Knight Palace's law enforcement elder, an early-stage Heaven-class master, was killed by Yang Ming with one punch. These people from the ancient sects, they all think they're so great and so arrogant. Previously, I met some ancient Feng family, and now there's Dark Knight Palace and Heavenly Pill sect. Sigh. Yang Ming killed Elder Chui with one punch. Wan Chu Pingzhan, and Langgood Jr. were so shocked that their jaws dropped. The 9th elder of the Heavenly Pill sect was also complaining in his heart. Where the hell did this guy come from? Someone who could kill a Sky-class master with one punch couldn't be a nobody. But this guy was so young, and Elder Gio had no impression of him at all. You? Who are you? Elder Gio asked, his heart beating fast. I told you I don't belong to any sect. I'm just here to protect Pingzhan, and one. Yang Ming shrugged. Also, I made it clear that I'm here to protect them. It's just on the way. I have more important things to do, but you guys just have to challenge my bottom line. I don't like to act cool anymore. I haven't been acting cool for many years, but you guys just have to cooperate with me. Ha ha ha. After Langgood Jr. heard Yang Ming's words, he suddenly laughed unscrupulously. He was Yang Ming's loyal follower. At first, he was worried that Yang Ming wouldn't be able to defeat Elder Chui and Elder Gio, but Yang Ming killed them instantly. This made Lang Ge's blood boil. Ugh. If there's nothing else, I'll leave first. Elder Geo looked at Elder Chui's horrible corpse. He was a sky-class master, just a little bit stronger than Elder Chui. He definitely wasn't Yang Ming's opponent. It was better to report this matter to the Grand Elder of the Dark Knight Palace and let her decide. Leave? Did I say you could leave? Yang Ming looked at Elder Zhu mockingly and said coldly, "Why didn't you leave when I asked you to? Do you think you're trash? You think you can come and go as you please in the garbage dump?" Chapter 2280. Puffed. Ha ha. When Lang Ge Jr. heard Yang Ming mocking the Ninth Elder as trash, he laughed even harder. Before Yang Ming came, these two elders were so arrogant that they were almost smoking. They needed the submachine gun into an iron ball, but so what? Not only was the iron ball crushed by Yang Ming's foot, but he also blew up Elder Chui's head with one punch. Actually, I'm just here to be a bystander. The Ninth Elder was a little aggrieved. When had he ever been so aggrieved? But the world of cultivators was like this. There was no reason, but strength was reason. The strength shown by Yang Ming's punch scared him. Of course, this was not the end of it. What shocked him the most was that Yang Ming was unscathed under the full attack of Elder Chui's Fire Dragon Fist. Was this possible? Even if it was a master of the Golden Bell Shield, it was impossible not to be injured under this punch. Unless the opponent was a master of the Golden Bell Shield at the peak of the late stage of the Heaven rank. However, if Yang Ming was really a physical practitioner of the peak of the late stage of the Heaven rank, then it would be troublesome. Only the Supreme Elder of the late stage of the Heaven rank could be his opponent, due to the fact that external cultivators only focused on body refinement. Their overall strength was always lower than internal cultivators by a level. "You're here to be a bystander?" Yang Ming asked. "Just now? I didn't say anything. It was Elder Chui who said that he wanted to send you on your way." "I didn't say anything," the Ninth Elder said aggrievedly. "How about you just treat me as trash?" "No," Yang Ming said lightly. "You can avoid death, but you can't escape punishment. Break your own arms." "I..." The Ninth Elder listened to Yang Ming's words, and a trace of humiliation and anger flashed across his face. "Since you don't want to, then I'll help you. But if I do, I'm afraid you'll be accompanying Elder Chui." Yang Ming smiled slightly. Okay, I'll break my own arms." The Ninth Elder took a deep breath. Although he was unwilling, there was nothing he could do. He was unwilling because he saw with his own eyes how Yang Ming killed Elder Chui. Elder Chui's full-strength attack did not cause any damage to Yang Ming. Therefore, Elder Geo assessed the pros and cons in his heart. If Yang Ming made a move, he would very likely follow in Elder Chui's footsteps and die here. Therefore, he had no choice but to agree and break his own arms. "Kacha! Kacha!" With two crisp sounds, the Ninth Elder did not hesitate in the slightest. He used his left hand to break the Ninth Elder's right hand, and then used half of his right arm to break the Ninth Elder's left arm. "Is it okay now?" Elder Nine was a bit regretful. This was a matter of the Dark Knight Palace. Why the hell was he getting involved? Now, my arm's broken, and I almost died here. Really, no matter what, I won't join the fun next time. It was better to leave this matter to the Grand Elder. There was no need to provoke such a terrifying existence in front of him. That's enough. Go back and report this to the person who's in charge this time. Ask him to come and talk to me. This matter needs to be resolved quickly. Yang Ming said to the Ninth Elder, "I kept you alive so that you could report to the leader. I didn't ask you to break your own legs because of this. So don't let me down. Otherwise, I'll remember where you came from. Heavenly Elixir Sect? I can find you. Don't even think about running away. I'll pass your exact words to the Grand Elder of the Dark Knight Palace. She's the leader of the team this time." The Ninth Elder sighed. Although Lin Fan's words were very harsh, he was not afraid that he would come to the Heavenly Elixir Sect. The Heavenly Elixir Sect was not to be trifled with. However, he didn't say that out loud. After all, the Heavenly Elixir Sect didn't need to provoke such a strong enemy over such a small matter. He could tell that Yang Ming was a master in physical strength, a sky-class late-phase peak master. Unless the Heavenly Elixir sect was out of their minds, they would not provoke such a grand ancestor. Oh, go. Yang Ming waved his hand and said impatiently. Elder Joe glanced at Elder Chui's headless body in the garbage heap. He hesitated for a moment and decided not to bring it back. Instead, he got into a car at the entrance. There was obviously a driver in the car. There was no need for Elder Gio, who had lost his hand, to drive. Are you guys okay? Sorry, I'm a bit late, but I'm still on time. Yang Ming shrugged and looked at Pingzhan and Wan'er with a smile. This time, should I call you Chen Zhe and Tao Lin Fong, or Chu Pingzhan and Wan'er? Mr. Yang, I'm so sorry. Last time, we had no choice but to reveal our identities to you. We had our reasons, you know. Pingzhan smiled bitterly. I didn't think that you'd help me and Wan'er so much last time, and this time, you'd help us again. I was entrusted by Godfather and Godmother to help you. Yang Ming smiled and said, It's not a coincidence this time. Oh. Pingzhan paused. Your godparents? It's Liu Weishan and Chu Huifong. They are your aunt and uncle. Yang Ming said, I met your father before I came here. So that's how it is. Pingzhan understood. I was wondering why you rushed over after receiving the message. My father must have told you about the ancient sect. It looks like Mr. Yang has a plan in mind. I can't say that I have a plan in mind, but these two people are a bit weak. Yang Ming shook his head. Elder Chui's fist hit Yang Ming, but Yang Ming didn't feel anything at all. This super version of the Jin Gang, Gu, was really invulnerable. The fire of the Fire Dragon fist didn't affect Yang Ming at all. Mr. Yang, thank you so much. It seems that Wan'er underestimated your strength. Wan'er recovered from her shock. She was a bit happy, but she was also a bit worried. Yang Ming might have settled the trouble in front of him, but the leader this time was the Grand Elder. The real strong person was the Sky-class late-phase Grand Elder, not Elder Chui or Elder Gio. I don't know if Yang Ming can still deal with the Supreme Elder easily when he comes. Ha! Yang Ming smiled and didn't explain further. One wasn't underestimating him, but the strength that Yang Ming displayed last time couldn't be compared with the current one. Yang Ming went to Miaojiang, inherited Elder Yu's super version of the Jin Gang Gu, and took the simplified version of the Titan Gu. Naturally, his strength was different. But, Mr. Yang, you killed Elder Chui. You have made a big enemy of the Dark Palace. I'm afraid this won't end well. One said worriedly. Chapter 2281. Don't tell me that if I don't kill him, this matter will end well. Yang Ming looked at Yi Wan'er without a care in the world and asked in return. This? Wan'er was slightly stunned. She immediately thought, that's right. Even if Yang Ming didn't kill, this matter definitely wouldn't end well. It's just that, this way, you'll be implicated. Don't worry about me, they can't kill me. Yang Ming smiled and said lightly. If Elder Yu was so easy to deal with, Yang Ming wouldn't have been so helpless for so long. In the end, it was Dong Jun who gave him the quick cicada Gu to solve the problem. Therefore, Yang Ming was still very confident about this Jin Gang Gu. I really didn't expect that, Mr. Yang. You are still so brave. That person is so strong, but you are even stronger than him. Langa Jr. was excited. Yeah, I really didn't expect that you were the godson of my aunt and uncle. Then, I will call you Brother Yang too, Pingzhan said excitedly. He never would have thought that things would turn out like this, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. At first, he thought that there was no hope at all, but now, Yang Ming's appearance was like a god descending to earth. He showed his power and killed the high and mighty Elder Chui in one move. Elder Gio of the Heavenly Elixir sect had no choice but to cut off his own arms and leave sullenly. However, Chu Pingzhan still couldn't believe it. He was afraid that this was a dream because from the crisis to the light, it was just too fast. It was just a moment, of course. Yang Ming nodded with a smile and looked at Wan. I really didn't expect that you were also from the ancient sections. However, I don't have a good impression of those ancient sects, but since you are married to Chu Pingzhan, then I will treat you as my sister-in-law. Thank you, Mr. Yang, Wan'er said gratefully. Although Yang Ming killed her sex elder in one move, if he didn't do anything, then the ones who would die now would be her and Chu Pingzhan. Perhaps Langa Jr. would be implicated as well. Therefore, Wan'er clearly distinguished between kindness and hatred. She wouldn't blame Yangming. After all, she grew up in the Dark Knight Palace. Her father was the palace master of the Dark Knight Palace, and her grandmother was the old palace master. The Grand Elder was her grandmother's servant. Although the Grand Elder was too heartless, she was wholeheartedly devoted to the sect. In her eyes, the sect's benefits were greater than anything else. If her death could be exchanged for the sect's glory, then she would die without hesitation. Face, personal honor, none of that mattered. Therefore, for such a person, Wan'er really couldn't blame him. However, she couldn't ask Yangming to hold back. The Grand Elder would probably get the news and come quickly. If Yangming held back, then the ones who would die would be Yangming, Chu Pengzhan, Langa Jr., and the child in her womb. Wan'er couldn't be more familiar with the Grand Elder's personality. Therefore, she was very conflicted in her heart at this moment. What if Yangming killed the Grand Elder with one punch like how he dealt with Elder Chui? Or rather, what if he and the Grand Elder were both injured? Thinking of this, Wan'er's expression was a little uncertain. Chu Pingzhan also saw that Wan'er's expression was a little abnormal. He also thought of something. Elder Chui and Elder Jiu, who came just now, were just two pawns. The one who led the team this time was the Grand Elder. It was said that the Grand Elder's strength was much stronger than Elder Chui and Elder Jiu. Elder Chui and Elder Jiu were only at the early and peak of Sky Class, but the Grand Elder had reached the late phase of Sky Class. He was only one step away from the strongest peak of Sky Class in the world. With such a strong person, would Yangming be his opponent? You're still calling me Mr. Yang? Shouldn't you be like Chu Pengzhan and call me Big Bro Yang? Yangming said with a smile. Wan'er came back from her thoughts and looked at Yangming. She couldn't help but worry. At this time, Yangming also noticed that something was wrong with Pengzhan and Wan. Both of them were frowning, as if they were worried about something. Seeing their expressions, Yangming quickly asked, What's wrong? Are you worried about something? Pengzhan smiled bitterly. However, Yangming wasn't an outsider. Since he was the adopted son of his aunt and uncle, he had to be honest. Big Bro Yang, I'm a little worried. You're not a match for the Grand Elder. She's one of the strongest masters in the world. With that, he told his analysis to Yangming. After hearing it, Yangming nodded seriously. He didn't underestimate the enemy too much. Yangming now was basically equivalent to the existence of a bug. Although he wasn't the kind of formal internal master or external master, his own strength had already surpassed the highest realm of external masters. Even so, Yangming didn't think too highly of himself. After all, the ancient sect's fame wasn't a joke. There was a reason why ancient sects existed. If they could stand at the peak of Wulin, it meant that they were very strong themselves. The Grand Elder, on the other hand, was one of the strongest people in the world. How could Yangming underestimate the enemy? Yangming's underestimation of the enemy was just a show for Elder Chui and the Ninth Elder. He wanted to put pressure on them. To be exact, it was mostly a show for the Ninth Elder of the Heavenly Dance sect. When the Ninth Elder was prepared, it was unknown whether Yangming could kill him in one move. After all, Yangming only used the simplified version of the Herculean voodoo, not the full version. Yangming's defense was very strong. When Elder Chui attacked, he didn't feel anything. When Elder Chui wasn't prepared, it was pure luck that he killed Elder Chui with one punch. However, the Ninth Elder was on guard. If he just defended and didn't attack, Yangming would be exposed. Yangming wasn't sure whether Yangming could do anything to him. Thinking of this, Yangming couldn't help but sigh. If Lin Dongfang was here, it would be great. With one attacking and one defending, if they cooperated well, they wouldn't be able to sweep Wulin. These old guys from the ancient sects would probably turn around and run when they saw them. Lin Dongfang was very strong and invincible. He was invincible and invincible. Yangming's body was as strong as iron. He was invulnerable. When the two of them were together, they were like a bug in Wulin. When you attacked, Yangming would defend, and when you were done, Lin Dongfang would attack. No matter how strong the master was, they would be killed in seconds. However, without Lin Dongfang, no matter how strong the bug was, it would only be half a bug. Chapter 2282. That was why Yang Ming pretended to be arrogant and underestimated his opponent, scaring Elder Geo into breaking his own arms. At the very least, he had successfully crippled one of Elder Geo's henchmen. That way, he wouldn't have to worry about Elder Geo harming Chu Pingzhan and Wan during his battle with Elder Geo. It had to be said that Yang Ming was quite a devious person. In terms of acting cool and pretentious, he had already reached the level of perfection. Understand, Yang Ming didn't want to boast in front of his own people. He shook his head and smiled bitterly. I know you're worried. Actually, I'm worried about the same thing. Chu Pingzhan and Wan were obviously stunned after hearing Yang Ming's words. It's like this. Actually, with my strength, in the eyes of you Wulin people, I should be considered a master of physical style. Yang Ming explained. Master of physical style? Wan was stunned. You're a sky-class late-phase peak physical style master. You can think of it that way. But to be more precise, I'm a master of the Golden Shield. Yang Ming said. A large success Golden Bell Shield. Wan suddenly understood and nodded her head, saying, No wonder when Elder Chui's fist landed on your body, you weren't on guard, yet nothing happened. So it was because of this. That's right. To put it bluntly, it's high defense and low attack. Yang Ming nodded. I was able to kill Elder Chui because he wasn't on guard, so I killed him. But for Elder Geo, I couldn't do anything to him when he was fully on guard. That's why I pretended to look down on the enemy and made him break his own arms. This can be considered as helping you get rid of an obstacle. Otherwise, when Elder Geo comes later, I'm really afraid that he'll be in the way and hurt you. So that's how it is. Chu Pingzhan and Wan let out a sigh of relief after hearing Yang Ming's words. Yang Ming was brave and smart. He really wouldn't underestimate the enemy. But after hearing Yang Ming's uncertain words, they were a little hesitant. Could Yang Ming really fight against the Elder on the stage? If Yang Ming was a master of the Golden Shield, then one thing was for sure. Even if the Elder came, he wouldn't be able to do anything to Yang Ming, but Yang Ming might not be able to do anything to the Elder. The result of the battle between the two would be a draw. However, if Yang Ming couldn't do anything to the Grand Elder, but the Grand Elder could do something to Pingzhan and Wan how could the two not be worried? Yang Bro, later on, just do your best. Pingzhan didn't want to burden Yang Ming too much, so he tried to persuade him. I'll do my best, Yang Ming said. But Yang Ming started to plan in his heart. In the past, Yang Ming did things with a rush and ruthlessness. But after the Miaozhong trip, Yang Ming knew the importance of planning and then acting. Take Elder Yu's case as an example. Planning and then acting was very important. So, this time, Yang Ming wouldn't be reckless. What if he couldn't defeat the Elder? Even if he could defeat the Elder, how could he do it once and for all? One had to know that although the Supreme Elder was one of the top experts in their sect, she wasn't the most powerful. There were probably some experts who were more powerful than her. What if these experts continuously came to cause trouble? What would they do? Yang Ming was fine. The key problem was Chu Pingzhan and Wan. No matter how many people came, Yang Ming was confident that these people wouldn't do anything to him. But what if they secretly attacked Chu Pingzhan and Wan Yang Ming's main mission in Las Vegas this time was to help Dong Jun deal with Dr. Benjamin. It wasn't to deal with the two ancient sects, Dark Palace and Heavenly Pill sect. If he couldn't do it once and for all, Yang Ming could only stay by Chu Pingzhan and Wan side. This way, it would definitely affect Dong Jun's plan to deal with Dr. Benjamin. The time would have to be delayed. Moreover, if Dr. Benjamin was fully prepared, Yang Ming would have a hard time making a move. But if he had Chu Pingzhan and Wan by his side, then Yang Ming would have a headache. Yang Ming could protect himself with Dr. Benjamin, but protecting Dong Jun was already very difficult. If Dr. Benjamin took the opportunity to accidentally hurt Chu Pingzhan and Wan then Yang Ming would be depressed to death. It seemed that if he couldn't do it, then he could only act shamelessly. Yang Ming sighed. Although his strength was very strong, he still couldn't guarantee the safety of the people around him. It seemed that he had to hurry up with the cultivation of the women around him. Also, he should ask Wang Xiaoyan to teach them some kung fu. Of course, these things would have to wait until he went back to Island X. The most important thing now was to solve the problem of Chu Pengzhan and Dong Jun. Langa Jr., you did a good job this time, but let your people go back. They can't do anything if they stay here, Yang Ming said to Langa Jr. Okay. Langa Jr. also knew that the elites under his father's command had no problem dealing with ordinary gang members, but it was impossible to deal with these Wuling masters. So, Langa Jr. waved his hand, indicating that these people could leave. Young leader, you're not leaving together? Among these people, the leader asked Langa Jr., I'm not going back. There's no problem with Mr. Yang protecting me here. Langa Jr. said, moreover, Chu Pengzhan and Wan are my friends. It's not right for me to leave just like that. Langa Jr., I understand your thoughts. You should go back too. Yang Ming glanced at Langa Jr. and said, no need, I'll stay here. Langa Jr. smiled bitterly and said, I don't have many true friends in my life, and there aren't many people I admire. I want to stay here and fight side by side with you. Okay, then you can accompany Chu Pengzhan and Wan. Yang Ming said, don't fight later. Okay, I understand. Langa Jr. said quickly. The leader saw that Langa Jr. was determined, so he didn't try to persuade him anymore. He left the junkyard with his people. Langa Jr. stood firmly beside Chu Pengzhan and Wan. Is your lower body better? Yang Ming turned to look at Langa Jr. and asked suddenly. Langa Jr. was stunned by Yang Ming's question, but then he said embarrassedly, I've seen many doctors, but I'm afraid it's useless. Chapter 2283. The people here were all familiar with each other. Needless to say, Chu Pengzhan and Wan knew about Langa Jr.'s situation. Yang Ming was the person who crippled Langa Jr., so Langa Jr. told the truth in front of them. You did well this time. I have a way to help you recover. Yang Ming said to Langa Jr. if it was before, Yang Ming naturally wouldn't make any guarantees. However, Yang Ming had received Lin Dongfang's medical skills. Moreover, he had just used his X-ray vision to check Langa Jr. and found that this guy's injury had been fixed by surgery in the hospital. The problem now was mainly a neurological problem. It was actually similar to Shun Yushi's problem. It was just that the location was different. Shun Yushi's was the leg, while Langa Jr.'s was the lower body. This kind of neurological problem was actually the most complicated and headache-inducing problem. Even if little Lang Ji's family was rich and powerful here, they had seen countless doctors, but they were helpless. However, it didn't mean that Yang Ming couldn't do anything about it. With the experience of treating Shun Yushi, it was basically a sure thing for Yang Ming to let Langa Jr. recover and regain his masculinity. That was why Yang Ming made this promise to Langa Jr., of course. He also saw that Langa Jr. was really sincere in helping Chu Pengzhan and Wan. Since this person sincerely repented, then Yang Ming didn't mind giving him a chance. After listening to Yang Ming's words, Langa Jr. was dumbfounded. He never thought that there would be a day when he could recover. Since he was crippled, his father, Langa Sr., kept looking for women every night. However, he was old and his energy was not enough. He worked hard for a long time, but there was no result. In the end, he went to the hospital for a checkup and found that there was a problem with his body. The probability of giving birth was relatively small. Even if he gave birth, the child's health would be affected. So Langa Sr. had to give up. Therefore, it could be said that the Langa family had given up now. However, Yang Ming's words suddenly rekindled Langa Jr.'s cold heart. Really? Brother Yang, I can still recover? Langa Jr. looked at Yang Ming in disbelief. I have a certain amount of confidence, Yang Ming said, but we have to solve the problem in front of us first. Thank you, Brother Yang. Langa Jr. was extremely excited. He didn't expect that his misfortune would be a blessing in disguise. Originally, he was prepared to die and fight with Pengzhan and Wan until the end. However, Yang Ming suddenly appeared and helped them solve the problem. Not only that, Lang Ge Jr.'s persistence also allowed him to gain Yang Ming's trust. Although Yang Ming said that he could heal his injuries, Lang Ge Jr. still couldn't believe it. After all, too many doctors had already examined him and said that there was no hope. What could Yang Ming do? However, this was the only way. Lang Ge Jr. had no other way. He could only listen to Yang Ming. If Yang Ming had a way to heal him, it would be a great surprise. In his heart, he didn't have the slightest dissatisfaction about being crippled by Yang Ming. After all, he didn't do the right thing in the beginning. He wanted to touch Wan Er. Now that he thought about it, if he really dared to touch her, it wouldn't be as simple as being crippled. If Yang Ming didn't cripple him first, and he didn't do anything, then the elders of the Heavenly Dan sect and the Dark Knight Palace would have picked up the butcher's knife and aimed at the Lang Ge family and the street racer gang, making them completely disappear from the earth. How could the people of the ancient sects be so easy to talk to? Therefore, he had to thank Yang Ming for stopping him from making a big mistake. At least he was still alive now. It was better to be alive than to die. Moreover, there was another turning point in this matter. Although Lang Ge Jr. was extremely excited, Yang Ming still saw a trace of uncertainty and worry in his eyes. He smiled slightly and said, "If I'm not wrong, you should have a problem with your nerves, right?" "Yeah. Brother Yang, how did you know?" Lang Ge Jr. was stunned. Yang Ming hadn't examined him yet, but he actually said that he could tell the root cause of his illness. How could Lang Ge Jr. not be surprised? One must know that Yang Ming just said it casually. Although this injury was done well by Yang Ming, who could control the situation of this injury? If Yang Ming's kick could destroy a person's nerves, then it would be amazing. Even a martial arts master wouldn't be able to control it, right? Moreover, the hospital that Lang Ge Jr. went to for medical treatment suggested that he have it removed. Lang Ge Sr. brought him to many famous doctors to keep it, but there was no hope for a cure. It could only be used as a decoration. Originally, when Yang Ming said that he could be cured, Lang Ge Jr. was just happy, but he didn't have too much hope. After all, the greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. During this period, he had experienced too much hope and disappointment. These ups and downs had made his mentality a little numb. Every time he found a big international hospital, they would say that there was a chance, but after seeing it, they would give up helplessly. This made Lang Ge Jr. mentally prepared. However, Yang Ming's words revealed his secret and the root cause of his illness. This made his heart move suddenly. In this case, Yang Ming might really have a way. Previously, I just cured a patient with a nerve problem. However, the location is different from yours, but I have some confidence. Yang Ming said, her leg was basically sentenced to death, but now she can stand up properly. Really? That's great. Lang Ge Jr. was ecstatic. After this is over, I'll have to trouble Brother Yang. Don't worry, someone is coming. Let's deal with the matter in front of us first. Yang Ming looked at the direction not far away and said lightly, "Someone is coming." Not only was Lang Ge Jr. stunned, but even Chu Pengzhan and Wan Er were stunned. Outside the huge garbage dump, it was empty. There was no one and no cars passing by. Why did Yang Ming say that someone was coming? Yang Ming saw their strange expressions and smiled faintly. Naturally, he wouldn't tell them that he had X-ray vision and telescopic vision and could see the situation in the distance. He only ordered, "Lang Ge Xiao, take Chu Pengzhan and Wan Er and hide behind. Leave this to me." "Yes, Brother Yang." Although Lang Ge Jr. was puzzled, he still nodded and agreed. He took Chu Pengzhan and Wan Er to the garbage dump not far behind Yang Ming. It was all abandoned car parts. It wasn't very dirty, but it was a little messy. Chapter 2284. Yang Ming stared at the direction not far away and frowned slightly. Yang Ming didn't put the previous two elders in his eyes, but this old woman who came now seemed to be a little capable. The old woman in Yang Ming's eyes was the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace that Elder Jiao and Elder Chui were talking about. The Grand Elder was now a Heaven Rank late stage expert, and her strength was at the peak of the Heaven Realm late stage. She was only half a step away from the peak of the Heaven Rank. According to Feng Tianlong, in the cultivation world, the peak of the late stage of the heaven realm was already the top level of strength. So although Yang Ming was confident, he did not blindly underestimate the enemy. The ninth elder was shocked and horrified. He did not expect that that bitch, actually knew such a powerful master. Yang Ming's body did not fluctuate with qi, and when he made a move, he did not mobilize or use the surrounding aura. What kind of master was this? Could it be that he was a master of external martial arts? Thinking of this possibility, the ninth elder's heart suddenly trembled. External martial arts masters, although they were not put in the eyes of internal martial arts masters, external martial arts masters of the same level were almost weaker than internal martial arts masters of the same level. But there were exceptions to everything. For example, there were a few sects that practiced external martial arts such as Golden Bell Shield, Iron Shirt, Iron Fist, Iron Hand, Divine Fist, and so on. These were all existences that the internal martial arts sects were not willing to easily provoke. And the masters of external martial arts sects, such as Divine Fist Palace and Tai Hall, were existences that the internal martial arts sects did not dare to provoke. The peak of the late stage of the heaven realm, especially the peak of the late stage of the heaven realm, were not existences to provoke. Could it be that Yuan Er's lover knew the people of Divine Fist Palace or Tai Hall? That seemingly very young master, with a master of external martial arts from Tai Hall, a peak of the late stage of the heaven realm? It was not that there were no masters who reached the peak of the late stage of the heaven realm around the age of 20, but they were all from the super ancient sects, such as the Ice Palace and Snow Valley, these two branches from that place, and the everyday sect that gave the major sects a headache. In these ancient sects, there were precedents of peak of the late stage of the heaven realm around the age of 20. However, the Dark Knight Palace and the Heavenly Elixir sect were not. These two sects could only be considered second-rate sects among the ancient sects in the current Jianghu. Hence, if they were really from Tai Hall, then the Dark Knight Palace and the Heavenly Elixir sect could only choose to retreat. Sai, the Heavenly Elixir sect, is about to become a first-rate sect in the Jianghu. However, the glory of a sect was not something that could be achieved by the efforts of one generation. It required an opportunity and the unremitting efforts of the successor. Now that there was an opportunity, it all depended on the young sect leader. The ninth elder was actually an ambitious person. He was also a person with no selfish motives. He was essentially the same as the Grand Elder. He hoped that his own sect would be glorious. The car drove back to the hotel where they were temporarily staying. The seventh elder quickly got out of the car and ran upstairs through the emergency exit, ignoring the strange gazes of the people around him. His hands were already crippled, so he couldn't press the elevator button. He had no choice but to do this. However, for cultivators, tens of flights of stairs were a piece of cake. After the seventh elder went upstairs, he came to the door of the Great Supreme Elder's room and knocked twice with his foot. The Great Supreme Elder's voice came from inside. "You're back? Come in. The door isn't locked." Patriarch 7 kicked open the door and walked in. Patriarch 7 did not notice anything strange about him, but he was a little confused when he did not see Patriarch Chui. "Have you caught all of them? What about Elder Chui and Wan? Why didn't they come together?" Patriarch 7, "Please help me and the seventh elder." The ninth elder said with a sad face, "Patriarch Chui is dead." "What? What did you say?" The Great Supreme Elder was stunned, as if he did not hear the ninth elder's words clearly. "What did you say just now? What happened to Patriarch Chui?" "Patriarch Chui is dead," the ninth elder said with grief and indignation. "Wan that little bitch." Speaking up to here, the ninth elder saw the Great Supreme Elder's unhappy face and immediately shut up. He just remembered that Wan was the big miss of the Dark Knight Palace. If he said that, it would be strange if the Great Supreme Elder's face was good. However, the ninth elder was smart and quickly changed his words. "It's that little bitch's father in Wan stomach. I don't know where he got an expert from, but he seems to be an external expert. He's very strong and killed Patriarch Chui. He even crippled my arms. If I didn't come back to tip you off and let you die, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to come back. The ninth elder's words were half true and half false. Although there were elements of adding fuel to the fire, there was nothing wrong with it. It was basically the truth, but he was too embarrassed to say that he broke his own arms, so he blamed it on Yang Ming. As for letting the great Supreme Elder die, it wasn't Yang Ming who said it. However, Yang Ming did mean that, but the ninth elder said it out loud. The Great Supreme Elder wasn't unhappy that the Great Supreme Elder insulted the child in Wan Er's stomach as a little bitch. In her eyes, a child born from messing around with a normal person was a little bitch. She wanted to kill it anyway, so she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. However, the opponent's arrogance made the Great Supreme Elder frown. Patriarch Chui was killed. One had to know that Elder Chui was an early-stage heaven class. Although this level of strength wasn't considered the best in the ancient sects, it was at least in the top ranks. He wasn't someone that could be killed just because someone wanted to. Moreover, what confused her the most was, where did Pingzhan get this friend from? He was actually such a strong external expert. How old is that external expert? What kind of martial arts does he use? Do you know him? The Great Supreme Elder was angry and heartbroken, but he still asked. After all, knowing the enemy and yourself was the key to victory. The enemy's appearance was too strange, and the Great Supreme Elder had to figure it out. An external expert who could kill Elder Chui and injure Elder Geo. His strength was not weak at all. Chapter 2285. He had to be at least a physical master above the middle stage of Heaven Stage. Physical masters above the Heaven Stage could be counted on one hand in the cultivation world. There were even fewer people above the middle stage of Heaven Stage, so the Elder wanted to confirm what this person's background was. Elder, that person is very young, about 20 years old, about the same age as Yuan and Chu Pengzhan. The ninth Elder said, he should be good at defense and attack skills. Defense and attack? He knows both of them. The Grand Supreme Elder was stunned. He took Elder Chui's attack head-on, and then smashed Elder Chui's head with a single punch. Ninth Elder smiled bitterly. It all happened in an instant. The two of them only used one move each. There's no way to judge anything else. What? You said he took Elder Chui's attack, and then killed him? The Elder's eyes widened in disbelief. Although Elder Chui was an early-stage Heaven Stage Master, it was impossible for a peak late-stage Heaven Stage Master to be unharmed after taking his attack head-on, and for a physical master to be able to do this, unless he practiced Golden Bell Shield, Iron Mantle, or other extremely high defensive skills. However, he also blew Elder Chui's head with one punch. Could this be related to the Holy Fist Palace? For a moment, the Elder couldn't help but frown. A 20-year-old physical master, it was very likely that he was at the peak of the late phase of Heaven class, the strength of a supreme being, but the Grand Elder didn't have any impression of such a strong physical master. Who on earth was it? That's right, he killed Elder Chui. The ninth Elder said with grief and indignation, I'm not his opponent, please help me. All right, come with me. The Supreme Elder said with a dignified expression. The car was still the same commercial car as before, and it returned. Yang Ming had already begun to observe the old woman in the car until she got off and walked over. Yang Ming's eyes were always on her face. As for the ninth Elder, Yang Ming automatically ignored him. This kind of coward wasn't worth mentioning. Now that his arm was broken, he couldn't do anything. Although it could be seen that his arm was still immobile, it had been connected, but Yang Ming didn't care. He looked at the Supreme Elder and asked, You are the Supreme Elder who thinks you are awesome, right? Which sect are you from? Why are you involved in this mess? Although the Elder saw Yang Ming's arrogance, he wasn't angry because of it. He did have the strength to be arrogant. He pointed at Elder Chui's body on the ground. You interfered with my Dark Palace's business for no reason. Even if you have a strong background, I'm afraid you'll have to give me an explanation for this matter, right? You killed our law-enforcing Elder. Do you really think you can do whatever you want? That ninth Elder, didn't you tell this old woman that I don't have any background? Yang Ming waited for the Elder to finish, then looked at the ninth elder and asked, The ninth elder was stunned. Yang Ming did say something similar, but he thought that Yang Ming didn't want to reveal his background, so he deliberately hid it, so he didn't tell the elder. Do you think that by hiding your identity, I won't be able to find out your background? The elder snorted. Tai E Hall or Holy Fist Palace? Which sect are you a proud disciple of? Old woman, I told you I don't have a background. If you want to do it quickly. Don't talk about it here. Yang Ming knew that the elder was testing him, but Yang Ming didn't need to rely on any background at all. Good, very good. Since this is what you said, you could be a witness. Ninth elder. The elder smiled. Although Yang Ming was a very powerful external expert, she wasn't weak either. She already had the intention to kill Yang Ming. Yang Ming didn't reveal his identity, which was the best. It was in line with the elder's intention. If Yang Ming was really a disciple of Holy Fist Palace or Tai Yi Hall, it would be difficult for her to do it. Now that Yang Ming said he wasn't, then she would just take it that he wasn't. Anyway, those who didn't know wouldn't be blamed, and the ninth elder could testify. Yes, I also heard this kid say that he doesn't have any background. The ninth elder couldn't wait for Yang Ming to die, so he was happy to testify. If so, then you stay here and pay for Elder Chui's life. The elder's eyes flashed a fierce, murderous intent. Her hand moved, and a red silk wrapped in a thick golden true chi flew towards Yang Ming. This red silk was the weapon of the elder. Once she made a move, she naturally wouldn't hold back. She directly wanted to take Yang Ming's life. For this move, she used her strongest move and strength. She didn't leave any leeway for Yang Ming. The red silk wrapped in golden true chi was like a fire phoenix, rushing towards Yang Ming. The strong power and true chi fluctuation made the ninth elder have to retreat far away to avoid the sharp edge. Yi Wan-er, who was in the distance, was even more frightened at this moment. She didn't expect that the elder would use her strongest move to take Yang Ming's life. However, just as everyone was nervous and depressed, a lazy voice sounded. What is this thing? Following the sound of this voice, the pressure and true chi fluctuation also disappeared in an instant. Whether it was the ninth elder or Yi Wan-er, they all opened their mouths wide in shock, including the elder herself. They all looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. The red silk weapon that she was so proud of was actually casually grabbed by Yang Ming in his hand. It was as if the pressure and strong power from before didn't exist to Yang Ming. Yang Ming casually pulled, and the red silk pulled the elder forward and staggered. This scene made everyone present even more dumbfounded. The elder even more bitterly and shockingly thought of a frightening possibility. Golden Bell Shield or Iron Mantle large success. Legend had it that the person who mastered these two elements would be invulnerable to swords, spears, and water and fire. My red silk had the ferocity of the metal element and the scorching flame of the fire element, but it couldn't hurt Yang Ming at all. This was clearly a Vajra physique that was invulnerable to swords, spears, and water and fire. However, the elder didn't give up. She took advantage of the red silk being pulled forward and quickly moved forward, slapping a palm on Yang Ming's chest. She wanted to probe Yang Ming's true strength. Pong! A loud crash was heard all of a sudden. Chapter 2286. The palm landed solidly on Yang Ming's body, but Yang Ming's face was calm, as if he wasn't affected at all. Just when the Supreme Elder was stunned, Yang Ming quickly threw a punch at the head of the Supreme Elder on the stage. No, one didn't have any feelings for Elder Chui. She was just an ugly lackey, so she didn't care if she died. But one didn't want anything to happen to the elder. Although the elder was mean and wanted to kill Pingzhan and the child in her stomach and bring her back to the Dark Palace, she didn't have any selfish intentions. However, the Grand Elder didn't have any selfish motives. Everything she did was for the good of the Dark Palace, so I didn't say anything. Of course, although Yang Ming heard Wan-er's cry, he didn't stop his punches. This was because Yang Ming knew that this old woman was different from that trash, Elder Chui. This old woman had some ability and wouldn't be killed by one punch. At most, he would give her a concussion when she wasn't prepared. Moreover, the elder was prepared in the next moment. Yang Ming wouldn't be able to hurt her even if he had a concussion. Bang! But, although the elder was prepared, she was still hit by Yang Ming's punch. There was no other reason. It was because she was too close to Yang Ming. She couldn't dodge, so she could only take it head-on. But even so, the elder's head was still buzzing from Yang Ming's punches. Obviously, she was injured to a certain extent, although it wasn't too serious to be able to penetrate her chi protection and hit her. This fist technique wasn't normal. Elder Chui didn't die in vain. He didn't have such a strong, true energy to protect his body. Even if he was prepared, he would definitely die within 5 punches if he didn't die after 1 punch. A strong sense of fear and dread rose in the elder's heart. Too strong. Not only was this person's defense strong, but his attack wasn't weak either. This kind of monstrous level existence was simply invincible. Even if a peak late phase heaven class master came, he wouldn't be able to hurt Yang Ming, but he definitely wouldn't be able to do anything to him. At this moment, Yang Ming's appearance overturned the Grand Elder's previous understanding of external sect cultivators. As far as she knew, physical masters of the same level would always be weaker than spiritual masters of the same level. For example, a peak late-stage heaven-class physical master would always be weaker than a peak late-stage heaven-class spiritual master. This was also the reason why she followed Elder Geo to ask for an explanation for Elder Chui. She was already an inner force master at the late stage of heaven rank. In her opinion, Yang Ming was at most on par with her, or even worse. This was because outer force masters were tough at the beginning, but because they didn't have enough true chi in their body, they couldn't sustain their true chi. Inner force masters had endless true chi. If the two of them continued to fight, the one who would eventually be defeated would definitely be the outer force master. In the past, it wasn't that the Grand Elder had never met an outer force master. For example, the master of Holy Fist Palace did have the power to split mountains and seas, but as long as she avoided the sharp edge, found his flaws, and consumed his physical strength, she could finally defeat him in the end. Therefore, the Grand Elder wasn't afraid of Yang Ming at all. Although she valued him, it was definitely not to the extent of fear. However, the current Yang Ming couldn't be killed at all. This kind of outer force master was simply a nightmare for an inner force master. It wasn't until this moment that the Grand Elder truly understood a truth. The road of martial arts was ever-changing, but the changes were still the same. All roads lead to Rome. Outer force cultivators, when they cultivated to the extreme, could also become invincible masters in the world. Now, the Grand Elder dared to say that even if Yang Ming faced an inner force master at the peak of heaven rank, it would only be a tie. After reaching the extreme, the gap between the outer force and the inner force was really very small and negligible. Even depending on the person who cultivated, the outer force might be better than the inner force. This discovery made the Grand Elder's previous cognition directly collapse. Boy, where did you come from? The Grand Elder's voice was very hoarse. Obviously, she couldn't accept the fact in front of her. I've said it several times, I don't have a background. Yang Ming said lightly. If you have to ask me where I came from, I can only tell you that I was once from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau. What? Supernatural Investigation Bureau? When did such an expert come? The Supreme Elder furrowed his brows. However, she was vigilant in her heart. Just now, her true chi was used to hit Yang Ming's palm, so the defensive true chi allocated to her head was relatively small. Now, she was still a little buzzing from Yang Ming's punch. She had now mobilized all of her true chi to protect her body. In this way, Yang Ming would definitely not be able to hurt her. Don't worry about whether there is such an expert or not. What's the point of studying this? I asked you to come here to solve this problem. Yang Ming said lightly. Chu Pingzhan and Yi Wan are my friends. As long as you say the word, will you let them go or not? Boy, are you threatening me? The Grand Elder was a little sullen, but he still snorted coldly. I'm discussing with you. Yang Ming said lightly. That punch just now also tested the Grand Elder's strength. He could definitely hurt the Grand Elder if she wasn't on guard, but if she was on guard, it would be difficult. However, the Ninth Elder wasn't that difficult compared to the Grand Elder. Even if the Ninth Elder was on guard, Yang Ming should be able to cripple him with a few punches. After all, the Vigor Goo wasn't just for show. No matter how simplified and weak the simplified version of the Vigor Goo was, it was still a Vigor Goo. Boy, I admit that your strength is not bad. I can't touch you, but in our Dark Palace and the Heavenly Dance sect, there are countless experts at my level. There are even a few who are stronger than me. Do you think that you can still interfere in this? The Grand Elder could only start to threaten Yang Ming. Oh, then you can let them come. I'll let you all beat me up together. Let's see what you can do to me, Yang Ming said indifferently. Beat him up together? The Grand Elder's mouth twitched. This boy was really confident. However, when he thought about how his two attacks didn't have any effect on Yang Ming, the Grand Elder knew that even if a few more people came, they still wouldn't be able to do anything to him. This guy wasn't a normal person. He couldn't be measured with common sense. Numbers wouldn't do anything to him. Chapter 2287. All right, let's not talk about these useless things. I must protect these two people today. It's up to you to let them go, Yang Ming said arrogantly. Let them go. The Grand Elder took a deep breath. Today, I can't do anything to you, but you can't do anything to me either, right? Can you kill me? No. Oh, what do you want to say? Continue. Yang Ming raised his hand and signaled for the Grand Elder to continue. If that's the case, you can protect them today, but can you protect them forever? Unless you're always by their side. Otherwise, Although the Grand Elder didn't continue, his meaning was self-evident. The Grand Elder's words made Peng Zhan, and Lang Ji's face change slightly. They saw that things were going in a good direction, but they didn't expect the Grand Elder to say something like this. Yes, Yang Ming could protect them for a while, but could he protect them forever? Oh, it seems like you're threatening me. Yang Ming wasn't angry, but he laughed and looked at the Grand Elder playfully. So what if I am? The Grand Elder looked as if he had already won. He wanted Yang Ming to not interfere with the Dark Palace's business. Since you're threatening me, I might as well threaten you too. Yang Ming looked at the Grand Elder in disdain and said, if anything happens to Peng Zhan, their children, and the people around them, the result will be very interesting. What do you mean? The Grand Elder froze. I forgot to tell you, I started out as an assassin. Yang Ming shrugged. If something happens to them, I'll go to the Dark Palace and Heavenly Dance sect. If nothing happens, I'll kill your disciples and elders for fun. And you, if you're not prepared, I might kill you too. You dare to go to our sect? The Grand Elder was shocked. He didn't expect Yang Ming to do this. Aren't you afraid of being surrounded by our masters? Whatever, what do you think you can do to me? Yang Ming curled his lips and looked at the Grand Elder in disdain. You have more people. Do you think you can kill me? No way, right? I'm afraid you can't even hurt me. Even if you use tricks and put me in a cage or a cave, it's okay. I can come out as soon as I hit it, just like this. As Yang Ming spoke, he rushed directly to the commercial car at the entrance of the garbage dump. He slammed his body into it, and the car flew directly. It fell on the ground in the distance and turned into a pile of scrap iron. The disciple who was driving the car also died directly. The Grand Elder sucked in a breath of cold air. What kind of cultivator could cultivate external martial arts to such an extent? That's why I said that I can go and leave as I please. If I'm in a good mood today, I'll rest for 2 days. Tomorrow, if I'm in a bad mood, I'll go and kill a few disciples and elders. I'll sneak attack you when you're cultivating or sleeping. TSK. I bet your sect will be wiped out soon, right? Yang Ming said indifferently. The Grand Elder's face turned green, but he had to admit that Yang Ming's threat really scared him. If Yang Ming really did that, he could guarantee that in less than a year, no one in the Dark Palace would be able to escape from his evil hands except for the Sky-class late-phase masters. Moreover, Even those sky-class masters would have to be careful to avoid being sneak-attacked when they were sleeping or cultivating. The ninth elder heard Yang Ming's words and was shocked. Don't. This hero, big brother, senior master, our heavenly pill sect won't be involved anymore. It has nothing to do with us. We won't marry Yi Wan either. Our heavenly pill sect will draw a clear line with the Dark Palace from now on. We won't contact them anymore, and we won't seek revenge or trouble them. Please, I'll leave now, okay? The ninth elder was scared. If this guy went to the heavenly pill sect, he'd be screwed. The grand elder was a bit angry at the ninth elder's words, but there was nothing he could do. He knew that this old thing would only protect himself, but he had to admit that Yang Ming was too ruthless. He blocked their lifeline. It's impossible for you to know where our sect is. Yi Wan also wouldn't betray us. The Grand Elder knew Yi Wan-er's character. He knew that even though she had cut ties with the sect, she still wouldn't betray the sect. This was the only chance she had. Oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'll ask around myself. I have a colleague who came from the ancient level. I'll ask him and he'll know where you are. Yang Ming said casually. The Grand Elder didn't expect Yang Ming to know other people from the ancient level. Her face was pale. Finally, like a deflated balloon, she had no choice but to compromise. Yes, he had to give in. This move of Yang Ming's was simply too ruthless. Although he couldn't protect Pingzhan and Yuan all the time, if something happened to them, this guy would come to them and they wouldn't be able to guard against it. All right, let's be frank. This is over. I have other things to do. I don't have time to waste with you, Yang Ming said. The Grand Elder looked at Yang Ming with an uncertain expression. Then, he looked at the Ninth Elder. This guy was obviously avoiding his eyes. The Grand Elder knew that the Dark Palace and the Heavenly Pill sect would break ties in the future. If that was the case, for the sake of the Dark Palace's future development, the Grand Elder decided to swallow the humiliation and turn his face faster than flipping the pages of a book. This young hero is too serious. Wonder, is this young hero's friend? Naturally, this old lady won't do anything to ruin their happiness. The Grand Elder smiled. As the saying goes, it's better to tear down 10 temples than to ruin a marriage. This old lady wishes them well. The Ninth Elder rolled his eyes. He had heard that the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace could be shameless for the sake of the sect, but he didn't expect him to be this shameless. Seeing that the situation was irreversible, he began to think about how to get the greatest benefits for the Dark Palace. This Yang Ming in front of him was young, but his strength wasn't weak. It could be described as heaven-defying. If he became a friend of the Dark Palace, because of this, the Dark Palace's strength and status would rise. Yuana was also somewhat speechless. However, her tightly hanging heart finally settled down. The Supreme Elder's words meant that she admitted defeat and showed weakness, and she had the intention of winning over Yang Ming. Even Yang Ming didn't know how to react. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone this shameless. This wasn't just shameless, it was shameless. This speed of change was miraculous. Yang Ming was completely speechless. Chapter 2288. That Supreme Elder, you mean? Yang Ming was a little hesitant. He didn't want to hit a smiling face, so he didn't want to make sarcastic remarks. Since young hero has come forward, I can't be a bad person in vain, right? Then you can live with little Chu without worry, Supreme Elder said. Thank you, Supreme Elder. One was surprised and happy, but she also knew that this was the result of Yang Ming's hard work. Otherwise, how could Supreme Elder be so easy to talk to? However, you are still a member of our Dark Knight Palace. Don't forget this, Supreme Elder said with a smile. Moreover, when Dark Knight Palace is in trouble, I hope young hero can help us. After all, we are Wan-er's family. Yang Ming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This old woman was really shameless. How could she say such words? However, Yang Ming still nodded for Wan-er's sake and said, well, since the matter is settled, then you are Wan-er's family. If you are in trouble, I can't just sit by and do nothing. I knew young hero wouldn't just sit by and do nothing. Supreme Elder said with a smile. What is young hero's name? Yang Ming. Yang Ming said lightly, but you don't need to investigate. I am really not an ancient level person. My strength was obtained through other coincidences and coincidences of cultivation. Beside me, there are a few similar friends. There are more? Supreme Elder and Ninth Elder took a deep breath. Yang Ming was already powerful enough as a monster, but there are more? Of course, Yang Ming was talking about Lu Yezi and Lin Dongfang. Lu Yezi had also taken Jin Gang Gu and the simplified version of Titan Gu. Although he was also invulnerable, he was not as strong as Yang Ming. According to the people around Yang Ming, the super Jin Gang Gu on Yang Ming was an existence that couldn't even be killed by nuclear weapons. As for Lu Yezi, he was only an ordinary Jin Gang Gu and had some weaknesses. Meanwhile, Lin Dongfang was much stronger. Not only did he have Jin Gang Gu, he also had the complete version of Vigor Divine Gu, but with these two combined, his defense was slightly weaker. The Herculean venomous worm couldn't display the legendary effect, but even so, it was invincible and invincible. Except for Yang Ming, it could still injure Lu Yezi. Then when the Dark Palace is in danger, I hope young hero Yang can help. After all, we are one Er's family. If something happens, you won't just sit by and watch, right? The Supreme Elder shamelessly said, when the time comes, I will ask those masters to help together with young hero Yang. Yang Ming looked at Yi Wan and Chu Pengzhan, smiled bitterly, and nodded. All right, since that's the case, let's bury the hatchet. This is good. I don't have to waste time killing people. The Supreme Elder was speechless. Did Yang Ming think that killing disciples and elders was a waste of time? However, with Yang Ming's skills, he was really invincible. No one dared to refute him. Then our Heavenly Pill sect. The Ninth Elder wondered if he could take this opportunity to get some benefits for the Heavenly Pill sect. What are you still standing here for? Get lost. Yang Ming frowned and glanced at the Ninth Elder. This old dog was quite happy to bark, but now he was scared and still wanted benefits? The Ninth Elder didn't expect Yang Ming to be so merciless. Go back and tell your young sect master that if he has any ideas about Yi Wan again, I will go up the mountain and kill you all. If I can kill you, I will. If I can't, I will leave. You can't do anything to me. Yang Ming said indifferently. All right, I will go back and tell the young sect master now. The Ninth Elder was helpless and prepared to leave dejectedly. A wise man submits to circumstances. He knew that he couldn't do anything to Yang Ming at this moment. The best choice was for the Heavenly Pill sect to not get involved in these things in the future and cut off all contact with the Dark Palace to avoid getting into trouble. As for Yang Ming, even the Supreme Elder of the Dark Palace couldn't do anything to him. Naturally, the masters of the Heavenly Pill sect couldn't do anything to him. Instead of angering Yang Ming and causing him to go to the Heavenly Pill sect, it was better to cut off all ties with Yang Ming as soon as possible. Scram! Yang Ming waved his hand and said impatiently, Young hero Yang. The Supreme Elder asked carefully, You can leave too. There's nothing for you to do here. Yang Ming looked at the Supreme Elder and said faintly, I don't like people who follow orders on the surface but go against them on the inside. If anything happens to Yi Wan Chu Pengzhan, or their children, you should consider the consequences yourself. Yes. Seeing Yang Ming's serious expression, the Supreme Elder's heart skipped a beat. He quickly cupped his fist and said, Don't worry, young hero Yang. The Dark Palace won't trouble them anymore. But the other sects, like the Heavenly Pill sect, if there are other troubles, I will take care of them myself. Yang Ming humphed coldly. How could he not see through the Supreme Elder's thoughts? This old thing was very smart. She was afraid that the other sects would cause trouble for Chu Pengzhan and Yi Wan and then he would blame it on her. Therefore, she made a clear statement in advance. However, Yang Ming wasn't someone who couldn't tell right from wrong. He knew that the Supreme Elder couldn't control the other sects, so he didn't make things difficult for her. As for the Heavenly Pill sect, they probably wouldn't dare to cause trouble for them anymore. Chu Pingzhan and Yi Wan only offended these two ancient sections. They wouldn't have any other enemies on the ancient level. As for the other levels, Lang Ge Jr. could handle it. There was no need for Yang Ming to do anything. Thank you for your understanding, young hero Yang, the Supreme Elder said. If that's the case, I will go back and report to my superiors. Waner, you stay here. After that, the Supreme Elder cupped her fist at Yang Ming again. She completely treated Yang Ming as her equal or even higher level. Then, she turned around and left. As for the broken commercial car and the unlucky disciple inside, the Supreme Elder naturally didn't care about them anymore. She didn't even collect Elder Chui's body. She was afraid that if she made Yang Ming unhappy, he would play some tricks again. In her eyes, the sect's interests were above everything else. She didn't care about the life and death of the other disciples and elders. If they were dead, why would she collect their bodies? As long as she didn't make Yang Ming angry and went home safely, everything would be fine. After the Supreme Elder left, Yang Ming said to Lang Ge Jr., "Ask someone to deal with the bodies here. Then we can go back." "Yes, Brother Yang." Lang Ge Jr. nodded quickly. Chapter 2289. Lang Ge Jr. was very familiar with dealing with corpses. They often held underground car races, and there were countless black racers who died in car accidents, so he naturally didn't care about a few corpses. He made a phone call, and the people who left before came back. They quickly dragged Elder Chui's body and the car that was destroyed by Yang Ming. Lang Ge Jr. respectfully invited Yang Ming, Waner, and Chu Pingzhan into the Grand Cherokee he drove. Chu Pingzhan and Waner only regained their senses after they got into the car. The scene just now was like a dream to them. Solved? Everything is solved? Not only the Supreme Elder, but even the Ninth Elder of the Heavenly Elixir sect listened to Yang Ming's threat. He immediately shriveled up like a frosted eggplant. He didn't dare to say a word. Thinking about Yang Ming's threat, Chu Pingzhan and Waner looked at each other and couldn't help but smile. However, they had to admit that Yang Ming's threat was the most effective. Think about it. Who would dare to offend a master like Yang Ming who couldn't be killed? If he went to your sect and started a massacre, you wouldn't be able to do anything to him. If he swaggered away and came back after a while, what sect would be able to withstand it? In just a few times, this sect would be exterminated. Brother Yang, thank you. Chu Pingzhan said sincerely, I didn't expect that this time we would be able to get out of this alive. Yeah, thank you, Brother Yang. I underestimated you before. I'm sorry. Waner thought about how she underestimated Yang Ming before and felt a little embarrassed. It doesn't matter. You advised me to leave before because it was for my own good. You didn't want me to get involved in this mess. But since I have the ability, and little Chu is a relative of my godfather and godmother, then he is like my younger brother. I will spare no effort to take care of him. When Yang Ming said this, it was from the bottom of his heart. Yang Ming's achievement today couldn't be separated from the help of a few people. There was Sun Sikong, Fong Tian, and the most important person, Lu Weishan. It was Lu Weishan's kindness and selflessness that allowed Yang Ming to find his first pot of gold. It laid a solid foundation for his future success. Therefore, no matter which one of these three people was in trouble, Yang Ming would spare no effort to help. Yang Ming was a very emotional person. He would repay a drop of water with a spring. He was a very warm-hearted person, so naturally, he wouldn't reject. According to Fong Tian's words, Yang Ming was actually not suitable to be an assassin. However, if possible, he could go further and stand higher. Brother Yang, where are we going now? Lang Ge. Chu Pingzhan and Wan's Ge and Wan's and Wan's and Wan and Wan's and Wan's and Wan's. Ants racing, Ants. Lang. I'm staying at the Douglas Grand Hotel. Yang Ming said, then let's go to your racing hotel first. I'm currently staying at the Douglas Grand Hotel, so it's fine. Okay, Brother Yang. Lang Ge nodded quickly. He was hoping for this. Yang Ming promised to treat him, but now that the matter was over, he couldn't take the initiative to mention it. Now that Yang Ming took the initiative to say it, Lang Ge was naturally very happy. Don't worry. I won't break my promise to you, Yang Ming said lightly. Langu returned to the racing hotel with Langu. Langu Sr. had already received the news and prepared a banquet. When Yang Ming and the other three arrived, they could start the banquet. Langu Sr. was relieved when he heard that the previous incident was averted. At the same time, he was proud of himself for being able to ride on Yang Ming's thigh. Even those legendary martial arts masters were not Yang Ming's opponent. Who else could challenge Yang Ming? Mr. Yang, welcome, welcome. How have you been? Langu Sr. walked over with a smile, looked at Yang Ming, and greeted him respectfully. Langu Sr., you look good. Have you been doing well recently? Yang Ming smiled. Thanks to Mr. Yang, we're doing well here. The Douglas family takes good care of us, and we have a lot of business dealings. Langu Sr. said with a smile, but this huge family business in the future. Sigh. Yang Ming was slightly stunned. He knew that Langu Jr. told Langu Sr. that he was going to treat him, and Langu Sr. was a little impatient. Hee. Langu Sr., I understand what you mean. I'll check on Langu Jr. in a while. Yang Ming said with a slight smile. That's really troublesome, Mr. Yang. Langu Sr. was a little embarrassed when Yang Ming saw through his thoughts. He laughed dryly and quickly invited Yang Ming into the hotel. It's no trouble, but we can only take a look first. I didn't bring the nerve-stimulating drug. If acupuncture doesn't work, I can only ask someone to send the drug over, Yang Ming said. Okay. Langu Sr. said yes repeatedly. After they went upstairs, they came to a super luxurious private room. The food and wine were already prepared. Peng Zhan and Wan were very happy at the banquet. Langu Sr. and Langu Jr. were even happier, but Yang Ming's expression was very indifferent. Peng Zhan, why don't you give your godparents and your father a call? They're probably worried about you. Yang Ming reminded when he saw that Peng Zhan was so happy that he forgot to tell his family the good news. Peng Zhan was stunned. Only then did he remember that he really forgot to report the good news to his family. He quickly picked up the phone and dialed his father's number. At this moment, Chu Sanwa was sitting in Lu Weishan's house with a worried face. Although Yang Ming had left for Las Vegas, his call with Peng Zhan wasn't very optimistic. He didn't even have time to tell him that Yang Ming was going to help him before the call was hung up. It was obvious that Peng Zhan was in trouble, so Chu Sanwa was very anxious. Sanwa, Yang Ming is a person who knows when to stop. Since he promised you, there will be no problem. Chu Huifeng comforted. Yeah, uncle, I know brother Yang Ming. Moreover, his martial arts are enough to protect his younger brother and sister-in-law. There should be good news coming soon. Lu Qianqi was also very confident in Yang Ming. After all, they had lived and fought together. They experienced the more dangerous trip to Miaojiang. Not only did they survive safely, but Yang Ming also got a blessing in disguise. Yang Ming had the super version of Jin Ganggu. It was definitely not a problem for him to protect himself. However, he didn't know if he could explain it clearly to the ancient people. Chapter 2290. As they were talking, third brother Chu's phone suddenly rang. Third brother Chu picked up the phone and saw the caller ID. He was excited and quickly picked up the call. Peng Zhan, is that you? How are you? Are you okay? Dad, it's me. Peng Zhan was a little ashamed. He was too busy being happy that Yang Ming's reminder reminded him that his father was still worried about him. He quickly said, I'm fine. It's all thanks to Yang Ming, bro. He arrived in time and solved the problem. It's solved? That's great. When Chu Sanhua heard that Yang Ming had solved the problem, he was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect that he really came to ask the right person for help this time. It was said that it was a big problem. He didn't expect Yang Ming to really solve it. Yeah, it'll be fine in the future. Wan Er's sect won't come looking for trouble anymore. Peng Zhan said, we can go back to Songzhan now. Mr. Yang Ming, you're really amazing. Sanwa said emotionally. If that's the case, I'm relieved. You guys must be busy right now. I won't ask about the details. We'll talk about it when we get back. Okay, Dad, we're eating now. I'll hang up first, Peng Zhan said. After hanging up, Yang Ming continued eating, while Sanwa let out a sigh of relief. Sis, brother-in-law, It seems that this Yang Ming is really not someone to be trifled with. I didn't expect the matter to be resolved so easily. Originally, I thought, haha, I knew it. Big Ming promised you, so he should have some confidence. Look, it's solved, right? You don't have to worry anymore, right? Hui Fong smiled. Yeah, I don't have to worry anymore. I'm finally relieved. Samwa nodded. This time, when they come back, I'll have to thank Mr. Yang properly. I'm willing to give up everything I have. There's no need to thank him. We're family. There's no need to be so formal. Aunt Chu waved her hand and said, Big Ming doesn't really want your property. Don't mention this again. Yes, big sister. Chu Sanhua seemed to be very afraid of Chu Huifong and quickly said. At the same time, he was secretly ashamed in his heart. It seemed that it was not a bad thing to have a good relationship with Yang Ming in the future. In the racing hotel, after Yang Ming and the others were full, Yang Ming brought Lang Ge Jr. to an empty room. Peng Zhan and Warner also gave them some time alone. Okay, take off your pants. I'll check for you, Yang Ming said. Here, take off your pants? Lang Ge Jr. suddenly felt a little embarrassed. What's wrong? Are you embarrassed? Yang Ming said with a smile. That's not it. It just feels weird, Lang Ge Jr. said. Why do I feel like we are gay? Get lost. Yang Ming glared at him. Are you going to treat him or not? Heel. Let's treat it now. Lang Ge Jr. was shocked and quickly took off his pants. Lie down, Yang Ming said. Lang Ge Jr. quickly lay down on the bed. In fact, Yang Ming felt strange in his heart. He was not a professional doctor. He always felt that it was a little inexplicable to treat this kind of illness. Unlike Shen Yushi, Lang Ge Jr. was a man. The treatment process was not ambiguous nor meaningful. However, since Yang Ming promised, he still carefully checked Lang Ge Jr.'s lower body. Although Yang Ming briefly looked at it before, he did not look at it carefully. At this time, he found that Lang Ge Jr.'s injury was not as serious as Yang Ming imagined. Lang Ge Jr. had also gone to many major international hospitals for treatment. Although these hospitals did not completely cure his illness, they did their best to help him recover by 70 to 80%. Now, there were only some blockages in his nerves and meridians. These situations could not be cured during surgery, but Yang Ming could help him heal through acupuncture. He didn't even need to use the kind of stimulating and nerve-repairing medicinal solution. Of course, this was also because Yang Ming had received the teachings of the generation's miracle doctor, Lin Dongfang. Otherwise, Yang Ming would really be helpless about Lang Ge Jr.'s current situation. But now, since he found the cause of the illness, Yang Ming naturally devoted himself to the treatment of Lang Ge Jr. With a slight shake of his right hand, a few silver needles flew into Lang Ge Jr.'s body. Yang Ming's method of recognizing acupoints was even better than Lin Dongfang's. After all, Yang Ming was the king of assassins and was good at flying needles. Therefore, acupuncture was just a change of method for Yang Ming. One was to kill, and the other was to save. See, Lang Ge Jr. was in so much pain that he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't expect that a small silver needle could actually cause such a huge damage to him. Lang Ge Jr. had never thought of this before. He thought that this small needle would be like an intravenous drip in the hospital. It wouldn't hurt at all. However, Lang Ge Jr. was a man. No matter how painful it was, he still gritted his teeth. He didn't even make a sound. He only took a few deep breaths. This situation made Yang Ming admire him. This kid is not bad. The entire acupuncture process lasted for about half an hour. Although Lang Ge Jr. was in a lot of pain, Yang Ming was also very tired. Yang Ming had to adjust the position of the needle according to the time, at any time. Therefore, Yang Ming was also very nervous during this half an hour. As Lang Ge Jr.'s pain gradually subsided, his face gradually showed a relieved expression. Yang Ming also knew that the treatment process was nearing its end. He pulled out the silver needles on Lang Ge Jr. one by one and said, "Okay, it's done." That's it. Lang Ge Jr. couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at Yang Ming in disbelief. He didn't expect that Yang Ming didn't operate on him or take any medicine. A few silver needles could help him get rid of his pain. Of course, If you don't believe me, you could try it later. Yang Ming smiled and didn't explain much. Anyway, Langa Jr. would know whether this thing worked or not when he tried it later. It was meaningless for him to explain. I'll try it now. Langa Jr. seemed a little impatient. He jumped up from the bed and wanted to go out, but he remembered that he hadn't worn his pants yet, so he quickly came back to put them on. You don't have to wear them. I'm going out. You could try it here. Yang Ming waved his hand and turned to leave the room. He believed that Lang Gu Sr. would soon send someone to help Lang Gu Jr. with the experiment. After leaving Lang Gu Jr.'s room, Yang Ming saw Lang Gu Sr. anxiously waiting outside the door. Seeing Yang Ming come out, Lang Gu Sr. quickly greeted him and asked, "Mr. Yang, how is it, my son?" Chapter 2291. There should be no problem. He's looking for you. You can go and see him. Yang Ming nodded with a smile. Then, thank you so much, Mr. Yang. Lang Gu Sr. didn't expect Yang Ming to cure Lang Gu Jr.'s illness in such a short time. Wasn't this speed too fast? However, he knew that Yang Ming was very good. He didn't suspect that Yang Ming was lying. After thanking him, he quickly pushed the door open and walked into Lang Gu Jr.'s room. Lang Gu Jr. was about to call Lang Gu Sr. and ask him to help find a better chick for him. This time, Lang Gu Sr. was a little scared after experiencing this incident. He wanted to find a better chick to try. If possible, he wanted to get pregnant and have a child to avoid any problems in the future. Lang Gu Sr. originally had this intention. After hearing Lang Gu Jr.'s words, he quickly went to do it. He couldn't wait to have a grandson. He couldn't do it himself. If Lang Gu Jr. only recovered for a while and left some sequelae in the future, it would be fucked. Therefore, this matter had to be done quickly. Yang Ming didn't pay much attention to Lang Gu Jr. and the others. He was confident in his medical skills. To be precise, he was confident in Lin Dongfang's medical skills. Yang Ming came to the door of Chu Pingzhan and Yi Wan Er's room and knocked on the door. "Who is it?" Chu Pingzhan's voice came from the room, but obviously, he saw Yang Ming's figure through the peephole. He quickly opened the door and said excitedly, "Brother Yang, you're here. And I just cured Lang Gu Jr. and came to see you," Yang Ming said. After all, Yang Ming's time was limited. Dong Jun hadn't contacted him yet, so he could still talk to them here. Once Dong Jun called, Yang Ming would have to leave. It's cured. Brother Yang is really amazing. Chu Pingzhan sincerely admired. "I'm calling father, aunt, and uncle. Do you want to talk to them?" You guys go ahead. I won't say anything else." Yang Ming waved his hand. He didn't want to take up their time to catch up with their families. "I just came to see you. Maybe I have something to do tomorrow. Leaving so soon?" Pengzhan was a little disappointed. He'd wanted to invite Yang Ming to play with them for a few days. Pengzhan and Wan had just escaped from danger, and they had been in constant fear for the past few days. This kind of fear could only be understood by those who had experienced it. They were always worried that the Grand Elder of the Dark Palace would come to their door, and they were always worried that Lang Gu would be implicated because of them. These days were not good. Even when he contacted his family, he was worried that the people from the Dark Palace would find him. Now they finally got rid of these days. Pengzhan and Wan planned to have a good time in Las Vegas and treat it as a honeymoon. As for Yang Ming, their savior, they naturally wanted to invite him to play with them. However, they didn't expect that Yang Ming had other things to do. Maybe he would leave tomorrow. The problem is solved. At least the people from the Dark Palace won't come to you guys anymore. Yang Ming said, "If I stay here, wouldn't I be disturbing the two of you?" "Brother Yang, you're joking. We can't wait for you to stay with us. We can also repay you for saving our lives." Chu Pingzhan said, "Yeah, Brother Yang, we, husband and wife, are really grateful to you." Yuan also ended the call with Chu Sanhua and walked over. "But I really do have something to do. It's not that I'm avoiding you." Yang Ming waved his hand. "There will be opportunities in the future. Since we're relatives, it's normal for us to keep in contact. If there's trouble, you don't have to be polite. Just ask me." Then, okay. Wanner knew that a powerful person like Yang Ming wouldn't be like them, who had nothing to do every day. Besides, Chu Sanhua also said that Yang Ming came to Las Vegas because he had other important things to do. So she didn't ask him to stay, only saying, "Then Brother Yang, accompany me and Peng Zhan for a chat. I'm curious about you. How are you so powerful?" Yang Ming's appearance completely overturned Wan Er's understanding of martial arts and cultivation. Although the sect she was in didn't get involved in the affairs of the secular world, she still had some understanding of the secular world. Those practitioners in the secular world, being able to reach the mystic class or even the golden class was already very impressive. Yang Ming's existence was almost above the sky class. It was rare even in the ancient sects, so one really wanted to know how Yang Ming trained. My martial arts are more random. There's no reference value or possibility of imitation. Yang Ming saw Wan Er's expression and knew what she was thinking. He smiled and said, "My martial arts suddenly became this powerful under a coincidence. In fact, I didn't give up anything." Inheritance? Wan Er was slightly stunned and thought of a possibility. That was the inheritance of martial arts. It was said that people with special physiques could, under a coincidence, obtain the inheritance of ancient ruins. And the inheritor's cultivation would soar like a rocket, without any arms or legs. Including her own palace of darkness, there was also an inheritance situation. It was just that Wan Er's blood wasn't very pure, so she didn't receive the inheritance and failed. So her first thought was that Yang Ming received the inheritance. Inheritance? Yang Ming was also stunned. Although Yang Ming didn't know what inheritance was, but from the words, it wasn't hard to understand. This was probably a way to quickly increase one's strength and quickly obtain martial arts. Thinking about it, his situation was a bit like an inheritance. At the last moment when Elder Yu exploded, he passed on the super version of the Jin Gangu to him, so he could be considered to have received Elder Yu's inheritance. Thinking up to this point, Yang Ming nodded and smiled. You can think of it that way, but it's not quite the same. "Brother Yang, come in quickly." "Wan, look at you talking. You forgot to ask Brother Yang to come in and sit. It's so impolite to stand at the door." Chu Pingzhan saw Yang Ming and Wan Er talking at the door and quickly said, "Ah, sorry, I didn't think so much." Wan Er stuck out her tongue. She was actually quite cute. She didn't look like someone who came from an ancient sect with strict rules at all. Yang Ming entered the room and Wan Er helped Yang Ming make tea. Yang Ming didn't hold back and took a sip. Chapter 2292. He had wasted a lot of energy to treat Lang Good Jr. before, so he was a little thirsty now. After drinking a mouthful of water, Yang Ming said, "By the way, Yuan Air, there's a question. It's not appropriate to mention it when we were eating, but I have always been curious. Since you are from the ancient sect, why weren't you Lang Good Jr.'s opponent?" During the meal, because Lang Good Jr. and Lang Good Sr. were both present, Yang Ming couldn't ask about these old matters. It seemed like he deliberately mentioned it to beat Lang Good Jr., so he could only ask in private when he was free after the meal. When Yang Ming set off from Songjiang City, he was a little puzzled by this question, but he didn't ask Chu Sanhua. After all, Chu Sanhua probably didn't know much about it. So Yang Ming prepared to ask Yuan Air directly. "Are you saying that I don't have strength?" Yuan Air smiled bitterly and said, "Actually, this is because I ran away from home without permission. Before I left, I was afraid that the people of the Dark Knight Palace would find me, so I took a sealing pill to seal the chi in my body. In this way, within 5 years, the chi in my body will be sealed, and I will be no different from a normal person." "Oh, isn't it better for you to run away and preserve your strength?" Yang Ming asked strangely and puzzledly. "If you don't have strength, you don't even have the ability to protect yourself, right? In our ancient sect, there are some people who are very sensitive to true chi fluctuations. Even if they hide their strength and don't use their true chi, they can still feel some subtle differences. The Grand Elder is such a person. She can feel the cultivators in a certain range around her. Even if the cultivator doesn't use their true chi, she can still use some methods to determine the cultivator's true strength. Of course, this is only limited to internal experts and experts who are weaker than her. Like Brother Yang. He should belong to external experts. She won't be able to detect it. So that's the case. Yang Ming nodded and thought that this was mysterious. However, thinking about it, even elder, you can distinguish the aura of the people around me. It is impossible to sneak around him. This ancient sect is so mysterious. They must have some means. However, after hearing Wan Er's reply, Yang Ming was even more curious. If that's the case, then how did that old woman from the Dark Palace find you? You're already hiding overseas, but she can still determine your location. That's amazing. As for how to find me, that's because of another reason. No matter how much I calculated, I never would have thought that I have the Dark Phoenix bloodline unique to the Dark Knight Palace in my body. Although I couldn't obtain the inheritance, I could still use some methods to find me. Warner bitterly smiled. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have sealed my own strength. Before, I thought that there were no cultivators in the secular world, but now it seems that there are some hidden cultivators in the secular world. If Grand Elder wants to find me, it won't be that easy. 5 years. Is there no antidote? Yang Ming frowned and asked, since you're not afraid now, can't you release the seal earlier? If you recover your strength, it will be good for protecting yourself. The key was that Yang Ming couldn't always protect Pingzhan and Wan Er. Yang Ming had to leave sooner or later to meet up with Dong Jun. Wan Er having some strength was a good thing. No, Wan Er shook her head. Unless there's a very strong person who helps me circulate my qi to dissolve it, there is no other way. Moreover, it must be an inner sect expert. So, Brother Yang, you don't have to worry about me. Yang Ming nodded. He was just saying, if there wasn't, then forget it. Anyway, as long as the Dark Palace didn't come looking for trouble, Pingzhan and Wan had little Lang Ge to protect them. There shouldn't be any problems here. After returning to the country, with third Brother Chu's ability, he should be able to protect them. Thinking up to this point, Yang Ming let out a sigh of relief. Yang Ming was a very loyal person. After knowing Pingzhan and Wan Er's identity, he couldn't just leave them alone. The two were now Yang Ming's younger brother and sister. Naturally, Yang Ming had to take care of them to the end. He wouldn't allow anything to happen to them. Then you two can play here for a while and go back to the country. After all, the trouble has been solved. You're not familiar with the people here, so it's not a long-term solution. Yang Ming said, and Pingzhan and I just talked about it. We'll go back after the honeymoon, Wan Er said. That's good. I'm relieved. Yang Ming nodded. Okay, I won't disturb you too. I need to go back and rest. I haven't slept since I came from the country. I need to make up for it. Ah, Brother Yang, go quickly. Wan Er and Pingzhan were shocked when they heard Yang Ming say that he didn't rest after getting off the plane. They quickly said, rest quickly. Yang Ming nodded and went out of Pingzhan and Wan Er's room. However, as soon as he went out, he met Lang Ge Sr., who was very excited. Mr. Yang, you're so amazing, Lang Ge Sr. said excitedly. Lang Ge Jr. has fully recovered. Now, we'll see the final result. If you can successfully make that girl pregnant, then you'll be the savior of our Lang Ge family. There shouldn't be any problem, Yang Ming said calmly, but he was sweating in his heart. Lang Ge Jr. was like this because of me, right? Now that I've cured him, it's only because of his pitiful attitude. I just did something normal, but Lang Ge Sr. is so grateful. That's good, Lang Ge Sr. said with a smile. By the way, I'm a little tired. Help me get a room. I'll sleep first. Yang Ming said, I just came here. The time difference is a bit messy. I haven't had time to rest yet, but I've been busy with so many things. Ah, Mr. Yang, you haven't rested yet. Then, treat Lang Ge Jr. It's really troublesome for you. Lang Ge Sr. said excitedly. By the way, you should go and rest quickly. I've already gotten a room. It's just opposite here. This is the room card, as Lang Ge Sr. said. He handed a room card to Yang Ming. Yang Ming nodded and took the room card. He didn't say much and walked to the room Lang Ge Sr. pointed at. After entering the room, Yang Ming fell asleep immediately. Although this room was luxurious, it was just a place for Yang Ming to rest. Yang Ming wasn't interested in other things. Yang Ming slept very soundly, but he was finally woken up by the ringing of the phone. Hello? Yang Ming woke up suddenly and picked up the phone. Chapter 2293. Yang Ming, it's me, Dong Jun. Dong Jun's urgent voice came from the other side of the phone. Where are you? Should I come to you now? Ugh. How about this? You go to the Douglas Vast Hotel. I'm going there now. I booked a room there. After you arrive, find Batterton directly and ask him to take you to my room to wait for me. I'll get him a call. Yang Ming thought about it and decided to let Dong Jun go to the Douglas Vast Hotel. After all, it was his territory, and this was the Lang Ge family's territory. Although Yang Ming was not afraid that the Lang Ge family would do anything treacherous, it was better for fewer people to know about Dong Jun's matter. Okay, I'll go now. Dong Jun hung up the phone after he finished speaking. As for Yang Ming, he dialed Batterton's phone and explained the matter to him. It was already past 11 o'clock at night, but for Batterton, who had a rich nightlife, he was not asleep yet. Of course, even if he was asleep, he did not dare to neglect Yang Ming's instructions. He remembered Yang Ming's instructions and hurriedly went downstairs to prepare to welcome Dong Jun. Yang Ming said goodbye to Lang Ge Sr., Lang Ge Jr., Chu Pengzhan, and Yuan and hurriedly left the racing hotel. Although the four of them were a little regretful and reluctant, they had no choice. They knew that Yang Ming was going to do business, so they sent Yang Ming out of the hotel and went back. Yang Ming stopped a taxi and returned to the Douglas Vast Hotel in a low-key manner. Although Lang Ge Sr. could provide Yang Ming with a luxury car at the racing hotel, Yang Ming wanted to keep a low profile when he came to Las Vegas this time. Although he was very high profile in dealing with the Dark Knight Palace and the Heavenly Dance sect, that was only in front of a few people. After the matter was over, Yang Ming naturally would not act in a high-profile manner. He did not want to be targeted by Central's people when he just arrived in Las Vegas. After returning to the Douglas Vast Hotel, Yang Ming went straight to his room. Dong Jun was already waiting in the room. When he saw Yang Ming come in, he immediately stood up. Yang Ming, you're not slow. I just arrived and you're already back? There's no traffic jam here. The roads extend in all directions. I'm not far away, so naturally, I came here faster. Yang Ming said with a smile. How is it? Did you find any clues? Central and Dr. Benjamin are very secretive. Even though their base camp is here, I have contacted and inquired with some gang members here and nearby continents in private. They don't know that there is a very strong force nearby. Dong Jun said, it seems that they are very secretive. Even these local tyrants don't know about their existence. That's normal. Yang Ming nodded, but he was not surprised. Central and Dr. Benjamin do different things from these gangs. I guess they are not short money. They are just researching some scientific inventions, so they have no interest or intersection with these local gang members. Yang Ming nodded, but he was not surprised. That's true. Dong Jun nodded. The Central doesn't lack money. As far as I know, there are two large consortiums behind the Central. One of them is in the hands of my sister, Alice. Of course, this consortium can betray us at any time. As for the other one, I don't know where it is, but it doesn't matter. As long as we destroy the Central, this consortium will be dispensable. We don't lack money. Have you found the specific location of Central? Yang Ming asked. I found it. From here, through a few small towns, we will reach Las Vegas Beach. There is a small island in the open sea that belongs to a private owner. That should be Central's base camp. Dong Jun said, of course, I just used the helicopter to investigate from a high altitude. I didn't dare to fly too close to avoid being discovered by Central and Dr. Benjamin. Central's scientific and technological power is very powerful. I was also afraid that I would attract their attention, so I just disguised as a tourist passing by the sea. What do you think? What is the next step of our plan? Yang Ming roughly understood the situation here, so he asked. Dr. Benjamin has realized that I have betrayed him, so it is not suitable for me to appear in public. Now there are two ways. One is that we hide at the dock where Central's people go ashore. We secretly investigate Central's people. It's best to catch one or two of them. Then we can learn about the situation of the island where Central is located from them. Dong Jun said, the other is to continue to take aerial photos by plane, but I won't show up. Let's hire someone to do this. The first method is good. Yang Ming waved his hand and said, "As for the second method, the risk factor is too high. The people we find may be caught by Central's people at any time. It is easy to expose our goal and purpose. Moreover, the photos and information obtained from aerial photography are not necessarily accurate. Since Central is a place with advanced technology, it will definitely disguise the island on the surface. At least, it will make it look more like a harmless private island. Otherwise, do you think other forces nearby are vegetarians? Will they allow a private island that is suspected to be technologically advanced to continue to grow? The first method is indeed the simplest and fastest way, but there are also two flaws. One is that we may not be able to catch Central's people. Even if we catch them, we may not be able to get anything out of them." Dong Jun said. "The other is that if Central's people go missing, will Dr. Benjamin be suspicious? Will he suspect us? It's not a problem to catch them. As for getting something out of them, even if one person can't get it out, can't 10 people get it out?" Yang Ming smiled faintly and said indifferently, "If we catch a few more people, we can get it out. Moreover, do you think that even if we don't catch Dr. Benjamin's people, he won't suspect us? He won't deal with us?" Dong Jun's thinking mode hadn't changed yet. Since we know that Dr. Benjamin wants to deal with us, why don't we make the first move? Even if Dr. Benjamin knows, what can he do? What will he do to us? If we don't catch his people, will he let us go? Yang Ming said with a smile. "That's true." Dong Jun nodded. "Then let's listen to you. Let's make the first move. Tomorrow, let's wait and see if we can catch a few Central's people." Yang Ming nodded, but in his heart, he was calculating the strength of the Central's people. Chapter 2294. If Yang Ming encountered those Iron Men again, he should not be afraid that they would attack him. If he wanted to find out their weakness, it was possible to kill them with one blow. But the key problem was that Yang Ming was afraid of those Iron Men, not Central's ultimate means. Perhaps Central still had some unknown secret weapons hidden. These were what Yang Ming was afraid of. After all, in the face of those people from the ancient sects, Yang Ming was confident and had the confidence to challenge them. Because no matter what, they were all people, and they were all within the scope that Yang Ming could understand. But Central was a little scary. It was beyond the scope of normal people. Central studied technology, some technology beyond the scope of normal people's understanding. If Yang Ming didn't have this pair of magical glasses that could see through things, then he would definitely think that no matter how powerful technology was, how powerful could it be? Even those atomic bombs and nuclear weapons couldn't have any effect on Yang Ming's Jin Gang voodoo. But Yang Ming knew that Dr. Sun Sikong's science and technology had exceeded his understanding, and Dr. Benjamin's science and technology level was not inferior to his. This made Yang Ming somewhat uncertain. What if Dr. Benjamin had mastered some high-tech weapons or high-tech cyborgs? These things were unknown to Yang Ming. He was in the dark, so it was unwise to rashly clash with Dr. Benjamin. At present, the wisest way was to wait near the dock where Central came ashore, catch their people one by one, and find out some secrets about Central from them. Since Dr. Benjamin's people were caught, he would definitely not let it go. Yang Ming didn't expect him to come out personally to check it out. At least, the people sent would definitely be his most capable subordinates, and they would definitely be stronger, not weaker. In this way, Yang Ming could also understand the overall strength of Dr. Benjamin and Central one by one. If he had full confidence, Yang Ming would find a way to negotiate with Dr. Benjamin or initiate a life and death battle. Thinking of this, Yang Ming also made up his mind. "I'm not sure if I'm being watched for the time being, but I guess there are definitely a lot of people watching you. At least, Dr. Benjamin must have expected that you would come to his nest to investigate. So the safest way now is for you and me to disguise ourselves. Otherwise, if we are targeted by Dr. Benjamin's people first, the follow-up things will be very troublesome." Disguise? Dong Jun was slightly stunned, but then he nodded in agreement. "Yes, disguise is a good idea. If you and I were to act alone, it would not be a big deal, but if we were to act together, we would definitely attract some attention. But if you and I were to disguise ourselves, then there would be no problem. Two strangers together should not attract Dr. Benjamin's attention, but you and I are both Asians. This is a bit out of place here. Although Las Vegas is an international metropolis, and there are many Asians and Asians, it will always attract Dr. Benjamin's special attention. Oh, then I will disguise myself as a foreigner. Yang Ming smiled and said indifferently, "Foreigner?" Dong Jun smiled bitterly after listening to Yang Ming's words. How can it be so easy? Our Oriental face is very different from the Western face. Even if you disguise yourself, it is quite difficult to pretend to be a Westerner. Hee, you don't have to worry about this. Yang Ming said, I can disguise myself. It doesn't matter to you. Dr. Benjamin probably won't suspect that a combination of Oriental and Westerner will be the two of us. Oh, Dong Jun glanced at Yang Ming, hesitated, and then said, well, since you were so confident, then it's decided. You disguise yourself as a Westerner, and I will disguise myself as an Oriental. Then we will go to the pier on the beach of Las Vegas to wait. 2 hours later, Yang Ming became a veritable Westerner. Except for the shape of his head, Dong Jun couldn't find any fault with his face. If it weren't for Yang Ming's voice, Dong Jun would have thought that Yang Ming was a different person. You, Yang Ming, you really surprised me. You are like another person. You don't look like an Oriental at all. You look like a native Westerner here. Dong Jun looked at Yang Ming in shock. In fact, the matter of disguise was quite easy for Yang Ming. Yang Ming's glasses could actually disguise himself. He could almost change his appearance at will. Yang Ming turned on the TV in the inner room of the room, and then changed his appearance according to the images of a few foreigners. It was effortless. The reason why he waited for 2 hours was that Yang Ming was waiting for Dong Jun. Dong Jun's disguise couldn't be as easy as Yang Ming's, so Yang Ming slept first and then walked out of the room. Sure enough, Dong Jun had just completed his disguise. Although Dong Jun also looked like a different person, he still changed his appearance on the basis of the original face. It wasn't a random change. After all, the bones couldn't be changed, unlike Yang Ming who had a pair of high-tech magical glasses. Of course, if Yang Ming didn't know that the person in front of him was Dong Jun, and then reverse inferred from Dong Jun's appearance, he wouldn't think that the person in front of him was Dong Jun. After all, as the #1 godly thief, Dong Jun often disguised himself, and Dong Jun's disguise technique was quite successful. Yang Ming smiled. I can't think about it with normal thinking. Then can you help me disguise myself like this? Dong Jun looked at Yang Ming's current appearance and was very tempted. If Yang Ming became like this, then could he also become like this? It is actually a special ability. Yang Ming smiled bitterly. At this time, he and Dong Jun were brothers in the trench, so he didn't deliberately hide these things. Didn't Dr. Benjamin ask you what special abilities I have? This disguise technique is one of them. It turns out to be like this. Dong Jun suddenly realized. Then she's the same. She also has this ability. Yang Ming said truthfully, so Dr. Benjamin has been looking for her, but he couldn't find her. After Dong Jun heard Yang Ming's words, he was shocked. However, it was only for a moment, and his face showed a look of understanding. He nodded as if he had solved a big question in his heart. Chapter 2295. I was wondering why Suya appeared by your side, but I couldn't find any records of her coming to Songjiang City. She didn't take a plane or a train, and she didn't even come from the highway. This is a bit strange. At first, I wondered if she appeared out of thin air, or if she had been staying in Songjiang City and never left. She left in a disguise. Yang Ming said, but your current appearance is fine. At least if I didn't deduce it carefully, I wouldn't recognize you as Dong Jun. That's good. Dong Jun nodded. Let's go out later and find a barber shop to get a new hairstyle to avoid suspicion. Yang Ming nodded and said, it's still early now. Let's take a break first. We will officially start tomorrow. Okay. Dong Jun seemed a little excited. Life or death, success or failure depended on this move. If he could succeed, then he could become a real free man. How carefree and happy would it be to live in seclusion on Island X with his sister and Yangming? For a person who had been controlled by the Central for a long time, being able to regain his freedom was very important. Dongjun dreamed of living such a life, but he also knew that he had to maintain a calm heart. The more critical the moment was, the more he couldn't be careless. Yangming stayed in a luxury suite. Yangming stayed in the inner room, while Dongjun stayed in the outer room. The two of them rested for a while. It was almost midnight. Yangming called Batterton and asked him to personally deliver some food. Then he would buy some new clothes and send them over. Yangming still trusted him very much. As for the waiters, Yangming was afraid that they would be shocked after seeing the changed appearance of the people in the room. Then they would leak the news. Although the possibility of Dr. Benjamin having contact with the hotel was slim, he had to be on guard. Batterton was naturally very happy to do this. He personally ran to the kitchen and urged the chef to make some very exquisite side dishes. Then, while the chef was cooking, he drove to the mall to buy a few sets of clothes and sent them to Yangming's room with the cooked food. However, the person who opened the door was not Yangming, but an unfamiliar Westerner. Batterton was stunned. "You are?" Batterton looked at Yangming strangely and asked. "Let's talk inside," Yangming said calmly. Batterton heard Yangming's voice, but the person in front of him was not Yangming. He was shocked as if he had seen a ghost. He shuddered and asked subconsciously, "Who are you? Who did you say I was?" Yangming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He glared at him and said helplessly, "Hurry up and come in first." Hearing Yangming's reproachful voice, Batterton still entered Yangming's room, although he was still a little bewildered. You are Mr. Yangming?" Batterton looked at Yangming in front of him and asked with a strange expression, "Yes." "Next, I have to do some special missions, so I have to change my image. It's enough for you to know about this. Don't tell anyone," Yangming said to Batterton. Batterton finally breathed a sigh of relief when he heard Yangming admit it. He quickly nodded and said, "Of course, I can't just tell anyone. Mr. Yang, the food is ready. Do you need me to do anything else? Also, help us get a fake ID according to our current appearances. Is that okay?" asked Yangming. "Of course, it's not a problem. It's very simple." Batterton smiled and said, "You don't have to find anyone else. Just find Lang Goose Sr.'s people can do it. They organize underground racing and often use fake identities." "Okay." Yangming nodded and asked Batterton to take a photo of the two people with his mobile phone. "Then, you want to get a fake ID. I have sent the photo to Lang Goose Sr. It will be done soon. Is there anything else?" asked Batterton. "Not for the time being. I will contact you anytime if I have other things." Yangming said, "That's it for the time being. We may have to leave here for a while, but on the surface, you'd better pretend that we are still staying in the hotel." "I understand. Don't worry, Mr. Yang. I will deliver food every day." Batterton nodded and said. Yangming nodded. He wanted to create such an illusion to make it seem like he was still staying in the hotel. Even if Dr. Benjamin found this place, Dr. Benjamin would find out that Yangming and Dongjun had been staying in the hotel and had never left. In this way, Yangming and Dongjun could do a lot of things secretly. "Okay, there's nothing else. You can go do your work," said Yangming, waving his hand. "Okay." Batterton nodded respectfully and left the room. Yangming and Dongjun had a sumptuous dinner together and changed into the new clothes sent by Batterton. At this time, Batterton also sent 2 fake ID cards to Yangming. After that, the two of them left the room separately and left the Douglas Vast Hotel about an hour apart. There were many guests staying in the Douglas Vast Hotel now. Many of them came to participate in the International Jewelry Festival, and many guests visited each other. So, no one paid attention to Yangming and Dongjun, 2 strangers who suddenly appeared in the hotel. After all, they were leaving the hotel, not entering the hotel. The waiters only cared whether the people who entered the hotel were guests or guests of the hotel. If there was a new guest, they would tell him that there were no vacant rooms. However, they didn't pay much attention to the people who left the hotel. Therefore, Yangming and Dongjun walked out of the hotel casually and then met in a small street behind the Douglas Vast Hotel. No one paid attention. It went very smoothly, said Dong Jun. Okay, let's leave here, find a place to change our hairstyle, and then go directly to our destination, said Yang Ming. So, the two of them casually found a barbershop on the street and changed their hairstyles. After the two of them came out, they were almost completely different from their previous appearances. Yang Ming, are we leaving here now? Asked Dong Jun. Now, Yang Ming had become his backbone. It's not convenient to not have a means of transportation. Yang Ming didn't really want to take a taxi. After all, it was easy to leave clues behind. Watch me. Dong Jun looked around and saw a somewhat shabby old Audi A6 parked at the entrance of an entertainment city. A few people with tattoos on their bodies who were obviously gang members got out of the car and walked into the entertainment city. Dong Jun smiled slightly. This is it. Chapter 2296. Yang Ming almost didn't see how Dong Jun did it. The door was already opened, and Dong Jun started the car naturally. Then, the car turned around and stopped directly beside Yang Ming. These actions were done in one go, as if the car was originally Dong Jun's, and he didn't steal it all. This was because his actions were like the owner of the car opening the door and then starting the car. Although Yang Ming could also do these, it was absolutely impossible to do it as smoothly as Dong Jun. A master thief was indeed a master thief. He was indeed very powerful. Yang Ming opened the door of the front passenger seat and sat in. Then, Dong Jun drove the car and directly disappeared into the night. No one noticed that the car had been stolen. In fact, Dong Jun saw that there was a problem with this car at a glance. This should have been a stolen car originally. The frame number was tampered with. As for the license plate and procedures of this car, he didn't know if they were real or fake. However, these had nothing to do with Dong Jun. The more problematic this car was, the more relieved Dong Jun was. I say, Dong Jun, you are quite skilled, said Yang Ming admiringly. It's just a small trick. It's just my old profession. Dong Jun smiled and said, when we get out of Las Vegas and go to another town, we will destroy this car and get another one to avoid giving ourselves away. Yang Ming nodded and secretly thought that Dong Jun was more thoughtful. The car quickly left the city and drove in the direction that Dong Jun said. However, after passing through two towns, the car that Yang Ming and Dong Jun were driving now ran out of gas. Dong Jun simply didn't plan to refuel. He directly found a deserted place in the wild and directly burned it. Then he did the same. At the entrance of a nightclub, he stole a suspected stolen car that had been tampered with the frame number. This kind of car mostly belonged to some local underworld members. However, these people's cars were not legitimate. Even if they were lost, no one would call the police. They could only suffer in silence. There was no need to worry about safety. Along the way, they passed through several small towns. The two of them had also changed 4 cars. Other than the old Audi A6 at the beginning, there's also an old Toyota Camry, an old Honda Accord, and the last one was a luxury car. It was a brand new Mercedes-Benz ML350. However, it was most likely a car belonging to a local underground racing gang. Dong Jun dug out more than 10 fake license plates from the trunk of the car. He randomly hung one of them and headed to the destination. This car was estimated to follow the two people for a while, so Dong Jun got it in one step and finally got a relatively good car. I finally got a better car. Dong Jun drove the ML350 and said with a smile, it's all right. Yang Ming said, your method is good. You are much better than me. When I accept apprentices in the future, I will rely on you to teach them in this aspect. No problem. Dong Jun smiled. Then it's settled. I will be a martial uncle. But isn't my martial uncle a bit bad? A martial nephew is a master thief. I will also teach him to kill. Yang Ming said with a smile, but it's just a casual talk. We will accept apprentices. It may not be a matter of a few years later. That's true. Let's solve the current situation first. Dong Jun nodded and said. Yang Ming and Dong Jun drove the car to the front of a motel on the beach of Las Vegas. After parking, they got out of the car. It was like a pair of ordinary friends on a road trip. People who drove like this were everywhere. They wouldn't attract any attention at all. The two of them booked a room in this motel. Naturally, they used fake identities and didn't attract anyone's suspicion. Early the next morning, Yang Ming and Dong Jun, like other tourists, changed into casual clothes and then drove away from the motel. They were going to the Las Vegas Beach Pier. It wasn't far from here. It could be said that it was very close. On the beach of Las Vegas, Yang Ming and Dong Jun rented 2 sun umbrellas and a small table. They bought some drinks and snacks and lay on the beach leisurely. They looked very much like tourists enjoying the sun on the beach here because there were many people like them here. However, in fact, Yang Ming and Dong Jun's eyes under the sunglasses never stopped. They seemed to be resting leisurely, but in fact, they were observing the speedboats coming and going. According to Dong Jun, the people from Central came ashore here and drove speedboats. As for Yang Ming and Dong Jun, they naturally found suspicious characters among these people. The so-called suspicious characters were actually easier to recognize. The people who came ashore from Central were definitely dressed differently from normal tourists. Their clothes were definitely very formal. They weren't like tourists who wore beach casual clothes or swimsuits. Therefore, such people could be found as long as they paid a little attention. Dong Jun also judged based on this situation before. He was a person from Central. Naturally, he knew the dressing style of Central's people and the special logo on their speedboats. Although the Central speedboats were no different from the speedboats driven by normal tourists, Dong Jun understood that the Central speedboats were definitely different from the tourist speedboats. The Central speedboats were modified. The most obvious feature was that they had 2 fuel tanks, a main fuel tank and an auxiliary fuel tank. The tourists drove the speedboats only near the beach and didn't go too far, so they didn't have to worry about running out of fuel. When there was no fuel, they would dock first. However, the Central's island was relatively far from here. 1 tank of fuel might not be enough. If there were some accidents along the way, it would be even more insufficient. Therefore, it was normal to have more fuel tanks. Another obvious difference was speed. The Central speedboat was specially modified. Its speed was very fast. Although it would slow down when approaching the dock area, its speed was very fast. Therefore, as long as they observed a particularly fast speedboat in the distance, they could start to pay attention. If the above conditions were consistent, then it was basically certain that the people on this speedboat were related to Central. However, Yang Ming and Dong Jun had been on the beach for 2 consecutive days, but they hadn't seen a speedboat that met this condition. Of course, Yang Ming and Dong Jun were not in a hurry. After all, it was impossible for Central to have people coming ashore every day. Even if they came, they might not necessarily take a speedboat every time. If there was a need to purchase a large number of daily necessities, they would still choose a helicopter. Only when Central needed something would they drive a speedboat ashore. Chapter 2297. Of course, a speedboat was easier to identify, but a helicopter was much more difficult. Moreover, they didn't know the exact location of the Central Island. Even if they had a helicopter taking off, Yang Ming couldn't know where the helicopter flew and passed by. Unlike a speedboat, they could only land here. Therefore, the target of the helicopter was a little far away. Yang Ming didn't pay attention to it. He still focused on the speedboats coming and going. For half a month, Yang Ming and Dong Jun had been basking in the sun on the beach for half a month. Even if they applied sunscreen, and both of them had better physical fitness, it was still unbearable for them. Sunbathing on the beach was enjoyment, but if they basked in the sun every day from morning to night, it was a kind of pain. It didn't matter if it was boring, but the key was that their skin was tanned into a dark red color, which was really uncomfortable. However, God didn't disappoint those who worked hard. Finally, on the 19th day, Yang Ming finally found a suspicious speedboat approaching from afar. If Yang Ming didn't know the specific location of the Central Island, Yang Ming even wanted to use his telescopic vision to stare at them to see when they would send a speedboat to monitor their movements at any time. But in the vast sea, how difficult would it be for Yang Ming to search and search without a target? Therefore, Yang Ming didn't have the idea of using his special ability to search at all. It was too exhausting. It was better to wait here. Didn't the target appear? Dong Jun, there's a speedboat coming from afar. It has 2 fuel tanks, and its speed is very fast. There are 2 people on the speedboat. Although they're wearing casual clothes, they're definitely not the kind of beach casual clothes. They don't look like tourists. The most important thing is that they have food on their speedboat. Yang Ming said slowly to Dong Jun. The speedboats that cruise here naturally had food on them, but they were mainly snacks. There was no regular food like compressed biscuits and canned food. Yang Ming saw that the speedboat had water, compressed biscuits, canned food, and chocolate. They were all food to replenish energy, which was completely different from snacks. Oh, a speedboat is coming? Why didn't I see it? Dong Jun was slightly stunned. He picked up the binoculars on the side and looked into the depths of the sea. It is still hundreds of nautical miles from here. Of course, you can't see it. Yang Ming said, "You may not be able to see it with binoculars." Ugh, it is so far away. Dong Jun was shocked, but he immediately thought that Yang Ming had some secrets and special abilities. Was not the time to ask. And don't be too anxious. According to his speed, it will take a while before he comes, said Yang Ming. Dong Jun nodded. He returned the rented tent and small table with Yang Ming, changed into casual clothes, and then walked in the direction of the dock. Of course, Yang Ming and Dong Jun would not be stupid enough to block the dock and wait for the speedboat to come. They just waited at an open-air beverage plaza near the dock. The 2 people sat at the table, each asked for a drink, and quietly waited for the speedboat to come. It should be almost there, right? Dong Jun could not use binoculars here. After all, this was not the beach but the dock. If he used binoculars here, it would be more eye-catching. It was not like the beach, where people could look into the distance through binoculars. It's almost there. You should be able to see a shadow with the naked eye, said Yang Ming in a low voice. Oh. Dong Jun looked carefully into the distance. Sure enough, he saw a black spot moving quickly toward them. Dong Jun nodded and said, I see it. It should be this, right? Yes. Yang Ming nodded. After the 2 of them get off the boat, we will follow them, but don't alert them. First, we will find out the strength of these 2 people. If they're just ordinary people, then we will directly tie them up and interrogate them. If they are powerful characters, we will find a way to kill one of them and leave the other behind to interrogate. Okay. Dong Jun nodded. Do you need weapons? Dong Jun got a few sniper rifles, but in Yang Ming's view, it was better not to use these heavy weapons unless it was necessary. Although the control of guns here was not very strict, it was better not to use weapons like sniper rifles. It would be troublesome if the local police were attracted. Finally, the speedboat docked. Yang Ming nodded. Dong Jun understood Yang Ming's meaning. He took out a bill from his pocket and paid the bill. Then, together with Yang Ming, they pretended to be tourists who had just finished drinking. They stood up and prepared to leave. In fact, they were monitoring the movements on the speedboat. 2 men got off the speedboat. They were about 30 years old. One was tall and thin, and the other was fat but very strong. However, Yang Ming scanned these 2 people with his X-ray vision. These 2 people belonged to the range of normal people. They were not the Iron Men invented by Dr. Benjamin. These 2 people were probably here to buy something. At least in Yang Ming's view, these 2 people did not seem to be powerful people. Follow them, Yang Ming said faintly and followed behind these 2 people. Yang Ming was good at following others. Yang Ming was an assassin. Following the target was his strength. Dong Jun was a master thief. He was naturally good at following others. Therefore, these 2 people followed behind the 2 people in front, and they would not be noticed at all. However, what surprised Yang Ming and Dong Jun was that after the 2 people left the dock, the 2 people talked for a while, but they separated to act separately. Their conversation was very simple. They said that they would split up to buy things, and then they would meet at this dock in the evening. Then, they each took a taxi and left. What should we do? Dong Jun frowned and asked. Yang Ming quickly made a decision in his heart and said faintly, just follow one of them. Since the other one will return to the dock at night, then we don't need to bother with it for the time being. We will wait here at night to intercept them. Okay. Dongjun nodded and got in the stolen Mercedes-Benz ML 350 with Yangming. They quickly followed one of the taxis and went in the direction of the town. These two people came from Central. It should be close, Yangming said to Dongjun after getting in the car. Chapter 2298. Yangming was not very sure before, but these two people acted separately as soon as they left the dock. Then, they had to return to the dock at night. From this point, it could be seen that these two people were not tourists returning from the sea. Instead, they came from somewhere else and came to this town for business. Then, they had to go back at night. This town was already a coastal city. In other words, there were no other cities on the sea. In this case, where did these two people come from? Obviously, they should be from an island on the sea. As a result, the identities of these two people were naturally obvious. Of course, if it weren't for Yangming and Dongjun paying special attention to this person, others would not have noticed anything wrong at all. After all, these two people went ashore, bought things, returned to the speedboat, and went out to sea. If one didn't pay attention, it would be difficult to find any flaws. Who would stare at the people coming and going on the dock every day? Yeah, it seemed that we are really waiting for two big fish. Dongjun nodded and said, "When are we going to catch them?" "Wait and see what he wants to buy." Yangming was a little curious about what this person wanted to buy in this area. Okay. Dongjun drove the car and followed behind unhurriedly. The person in front didn't notice that someone was following behind him. The taxi stopped at the door of a chemical supplies store. The person paid the money, got out of the taxi, and walked into the store. Buying chemicals? Yangming looked at the person who walked into the store and said, "Why does the center buy these things? Has the research direction changed?" "I don't know, but according to my information channel, Dr. Benjamin recently had the idea of researching biohumans. Steelman was defeated by you two in a row. Although he doesn't know that you defeated him, in his opinion, this thing is very flawed, so he's going to research biohumans." Dongjun said, "Of course, this is just my news. I don't know whether it is true or not. If it's really like what you said, then it seems to be true." Yangming nodded. "Biochemical human? This Dr. Benjamin is really daring. I just don't know if this is his idea on the spur of the moment because he thinks that Steelman is flawed, or he's been planning to research it since long ago. Otherwise, why has Dr. Benjamin been looking for me and Suya? He must have taken a fancy to my special ability and wanted to apply it to biohumans. In other words, Dr. Benjamin wants to create a super monster that is a combination of biohumans and Steelman." Thinking of this possibility, Yangming frowned. This Dr. Benjamin is more terrifying than I thought. It seems that it is also good to kill him as soon as possible, lest this guy really succeeds in his research and runs out to harm people. The person from the center entered the chemical store and stayed inside for about an hour. Yangming and Dongjun were a little impatient. If Yangming didn't see this guy buying things in the store with his X-ray vision, Yangming would even think that this guy escaped from the back door. However, Yangming was very clear about the situation in the store. This person bought a lot of things. It was a long list. Although he didn't buy a lot of chemicals and reagents, there were a lot of different kinds of things. It was a mess that added up to hundreds of things. No wonder it took so long. As a matter of fact, it took a lot of time to separate each kind of medicine. Finally, this person walked out of the chemical store with a big box. It seemed that he was waiting for a taxi, but Yangming and Dongjun didn't give him a chance to wait. After Dongjun saw him coming out, he directly drove the car over and parked it next to him. Then, he and Yangming quickly got out of the car. Dongjun directly took the box of chemicals from the person's hand and put it in the trunk of the car. Yangming also directly pushed the person into the car. The two cooperated well. These things were done in one go. It was as if the person in the center was waiting for Yangming and Dongjun. One helped him carry the things, and the other helped him open the car door and enthusiastically pushed him into the car. Even if someone saw it, they wouldn't be suspicious. In fact, this person was also stunned. How could he be robbed and pushed into a car when he went out. When he reacted, he was already sitting in the car. He wanted to speak, but Yang Ming casually raised his hand and poked him a few times. So, he couldn't move or speak. This person was an ordinary person. Yang Ming didn't know if he knew Kung Fu, but at least he was an Iron Man, so this person was also afraid of acupuncture. Yang Ming restrained him as soon as he got into the car. He was also afraid that he would scream, so he directly restrained him so that he couldn't move and speak. Done. Dong Jun closed the door and got into the car. He clapped his hands and smiled at Yang Ming. Then he started the car and disappeared from the door of the chemical store. The person in the center looked at Yang Ming and Dong Jun in the car in horror. He didn't know who they were and why they kidnapped him. Was it for money or something else? But now he couldn't speak, and he couldn't ask. He could only sulk and be very depressed. Yang Ming wasn't in a hurry to talk to this person. Although there was a dark film on the window, and the situation inside the car couldn't be seen clearly from the outside. After all, this was in the city. It was better to be careful. Dong Jun drove the car directly to an industrial area near the town. There was an abandoned steel factory that hadn't been built yet. It was currently in a deserted state. This was a good place for Yang Ming and Dong Jun to investigate in advance. No one would disturb here, and they didn't have to worry about problems. This guy doesn't have a tracker and tapping device on him, right? Dong Jun asked carefully. Yes, but I threw it away, Yang Ming said faintly. Yang Ming had X-ray vision. When this guy got in the car, he threw the tracker and tapping device out of the car while pressing his acupuncture points. That's good. Dong Jun nodded. Then he drove the car into the abandoned factory without any scruples. Get out of the car. Yang Ming took the person in his hand and got out of the car directly. Then he unsealed his acupuncture points and threw them on the ground. Dong Jun didn't get out of the car, but sat in the car. He wasn't good at interrogating these people, so it was better to leave this to Yang Ming. His main task now was to observe the nearby movement. Chapter 2299. At the entrance of this abandoned factory, Dong Jun had installed a wireless camera before. Through the image signal transmitted by the wireless camera, Dong Jun could receive it in the car. He could observe whether there was anyone nearby at any time. After all, what they were doing couldn't be exposed. If someone came, Dong Jun could warn Yang Ming in advance and let him leave quickly. Although Yang Ming had X-ray vision and could also pay attention to the situation at the gate at any time, Yang Ming's main energy was now focused on interrogating the central person in front of him. Naturally, he didn't want to divide his energy to do other things. Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? After the central person's acupuncture point was unsealed, he looked at Yang Ming with some horror. He wasn't stupid. He could see that Yang Ming wasn't an ordinary person, because how could an ordinary person know how to seal acupuncture points? She casually touched him a few times, and he couldn't move or speak. How frightening was this? Kidnapping you naturally has a purpose. What did you buy those chemicals for? Yang Ming didn't answer the central person's question directly, but asked back. I bought chemicals. Of course, it was to do a chemical experiment. Who are you? Why did you kidnap me? I don't seem to have offended you, right? The central person said, did I break the law by buying chemicals? You let me go, and this matter will be over. Otherwise, I will call the police. When the central person heard that Yang Ming was only asking about chemicals, he felt confident in his heart. Call the police. Whatever. I don't know if the police will arrest you if they know that you are a central person and Dr. Benjamin's subordinate. Yang Ming looked at the person in front of him and said sarcastically, You, who the hell are you? How do you know about Central? At this moment, the central person's eyes were full of panic and disbelief. He didn't expect Yang Ming to see through his identity. Of course, he wasn't stupid enough to deny it, since Yang Ming said his identity and even called out Dr. Benjamin's name. It was obvious that Yang Ming was a person who knew Central. Otherwise, how could he know these things? Yang Ming nodded slightly. This person exposed his inner thoughts in this nervous moment. It seemed that his judgment was right. This person really came from Central. Yang Ming saw through his thoughts. Of course, I am Dr. Benjamin's enemy. Yang Ming said faintly. If you don't want to suffer unnecessary pain, tell the truth. I have nothing to say. Just kill me. The person in the center was resolute. He snorted and then sat on the ground like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water. He didn't say anything. Oh, looks like you won't cry until you see the coffin. The central person naturally didn't believe Yang Ming's threat. If he didn't say it now, would he beg him to say it later? Am I so brainless? That's not brainless, but cerebral palsy. Well, I'll give you 10 seconds to think about it, said Yang Ming faintly. There's no need to think about it. Just kill me. The central person was determined not to say anything even if he was beaten to death. If he said the central secret, then he would be the one to die after going back. Maybe he would die even more miserably. Dr. Benjamin would lock him up for human experiments and biochemical modification. That would be worse than death. Therefore, he thought that if he died at this time, he would die. If he didn't die, Dr. Benjamin could continue to use him. This is your own choice. I hope you don't regret it. Yang Ming saw that the person in front of him was very stubborn, so he didn't try to persuade him again. He directly reached out and tapped him a few times. Then, he moved aside and sat down, leaving this person alone. The central person was puzzled at first. Was Yang Ming afraid that he would run away? So he tapped his acupoints again so that he couldn't move or speak. Was this the so-called punishment? But in the next moment, he understood that things were not so simple, because what happened next was simply too painful for him. Ouch! The central person screamed and rolled on the ground. He only felt as if there were countless ants biting his skin. He couldn't move his hands, and he couldn't stop the itch. He could only keep rolling back and forth on the ground to relieve the pain. What's going on? Could it be that he had poisoned himself? Or, at this point, the central person finally understood what was called fearless pain. It was simply worse than death. He rolled back and forth on the ground, but it didn't have much effect. He wailed and screamed in pain. Too noisy. Yang Ming frowned and tapped the central person again. He tapped his mute acupoint so that he couldn't make a sound. Even if he was in pain, he could only make a hiss sound. The central person was full of fear. Needless to say about the physical pain, the psychological pain at this moment was even more horrifying. Not only was he extremely uncomfortable, but he couldn't make any sound. Who was this person in front of me? How can he have such a method? He said that he was the central person's enemy. Since he could be called an enemy, he must have similar methods as Dr. Benjamin. Dr. Benjamin studied human potential experiments, so it was common sense that Yang Ming could casually create this pain for him. Thinking of this, the central person felt sad. It seemed that Yang Ming's method of punishing people was not worse than Dr. Benjamin's. It seemed to be more painful and terrifying. At least, he was really worse than death now. He wanted Yang Ming to kill him and end him. He even wanted to end his own life, but his hands couldn't move. He couldn't die even if he wanted to. He really couldn't die even if he wanted to. Yang Ming said that he hoped that he wouldn't regret it, but at this moment, he really regretted it. It was so painful. He wanted to die. However, Yang Ming seemed to see through his thoughts. He struck again and tapped twice on his body. This time, the central person could make a sound and continue to scream. How is it? Do you want to continue or cooperate with me obediently? Answer what I ask. Yang Ming asked faintly. I answer. Let me go first. I beg you. It's too painful. The central person roared in pain. Okay, but if you don't cooperate, then I can only give you something worse. As Yang Ming spoke, he patted the person in the center twice, and the person in the center returned to normal. Chapter 2300. Ooh. The person in the center breathed a sigh of relief. Just now, Yang Ming's means almost killed him. At this time, he felt that his whole body was unspeakably relaxed. When he wiped his forehead, it was already full of sweat. Previously, it was like a horrible torture in hell. It made him frightened. He hated Yang Ming in his heart. After he saw Yang Ming unseal his acupoints, he didn't stop him from wiping his sweat. He suddenly had a plan. He wanted to take advantage of Yang Ming's lax state to kill him. When this bold idea came out, the person in the center was shocked, but he still decided to take the risk. He felt that if he said it, he would die. If he didn't say it, he would also die. It was better to drag someone down with him before he died. Therefore, the person in the center suddenly pulled out a delicate small pistol from his body and shot at Yangming. Bang! A muffled sound of a bullet being fired sounded. A bullet broke through the air and shot on Yangming's chest. Yangming didn't dodge. He just looked and let the bullet hit him. The person in the center took out a small lipstick pistol. This kind of pistol was easy to carry, but the disadvantage was that there was only one bullet in it. It could only be used once. After it was used up, it would be useless. However, the person in the center was still very confident in his marksmanship. This was because he felt that even the fastest person wouldn't be able to dodge a shot. Shooting at such a close range, under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to dodge. But for Yangming, it was actually not a problem. Yangming, who was proficient in the butterfly microstep, could still easily dodge this attack. However, Yangming didn't dodge at all. Instead, he let the bullet hit his body. Yangming wanted this effect. He had already seen that the person in the center was more stubborn. He was a tough bone. If he wanted to convince him, he must come up with some means. Otherwise, it was really difficult to make him give in. Yangming actually saw the lipstick pistol on him before, but Yangming didn't take it away. The trackers and bugs on his body couldn't hide from Yangming. How could a lipstick pistol escape from Yangming's eyes? Yangming's X-ray vision even scanned the place on his body. How could he miss it? The bullet shot on Yangming's body, but it was bounced off. It didn't enter Yangming's body at all. You were wearing a bulletproof vest? The person in the center was shocked. Looking at the safe and sound Yangming, he suddenly frowned. He looked at Yangming with some surprise and asked nervously, "Bulletproof vest?" Yangming shrugged and unbuttoned his jacket. There was nothing inside except a shirt, and the shirt was also pierced by the bullet. The skin of Yangming's chest could be vaguely seen. "You're also a steel man?" The person in the center was shocked. He subconsciously thought that Yangming was the same as the steel man invented by Dr. Benjamin. He had Jean Gang's indestructible body. You know the steel man, too? Yangming looked at the person in the center in front of him with a smile. "I'm not a steel man. I killed 2 steel men." You killed them." In the eyes of the person in the center, there was suddenly a look of understanding. "It seems that your status in the center is not low. You know about the steel man, and you know that 2 of them were killed?" asked Yangming. "So what? My status is indeed not low, but it is not high. The secrets I know are limited. If you want to get more useful information from me, it is probably impossible," the person in the center said with some resignation. Since Yangming was not even afraid of bullets and knew some secrets in the center, it was estimated that he knew about the same things as himself. Then he did not have to hide it. It was meaningless. "What is your name? What are you responsible for in the center? How many people are there in the center, besides Dr. Benjamin, who is in charge?" asked Yangming. "My name is Zhen Laoshi. In the center, I am responsible for purchasing some chemical reagents and chemicals." The person in the center said truthfully, "Although I'm a relatively core figure in the center, I really don't know how many people there are in the center." "You don't know?" Yangming frowned, looked straight at Zhen Laoshi and asked, "Zhen Laoshi, I think you are really dishonest." "Well, in fact, I estimate that there should be more than 100 people." Zhen Laoshi nodded helplessly. "But it is just my estimate. For the specific number, you should ask another person. His status is higher than mine. He is Dr. Benjamin's student. As for whether there are other people in charge in the center, I don't know. The person in charge of the highest position we can reach is Dr. Benjamin. He is currently in charge of everything in the center." "Another person?" Yangming frowned. "The person who came with you? He is Dr. Benjamin's student?" "Yes." Zhen Laoshi nodded. "What is his name? What is his purpose for coming ashore with you this time?" Yangming was a little regretful. He seemed to have followed the wrong person. If he had followed another person, he would have gotten more information. But it was too late to regret now. He could only try to get as much information from this person as possible. Yangming planned to capture one and release the other. The one he captured, he would force some information out of him and then kill him. At least for the time being, he would not let Dr. Benjamin know about his and Dong Jun's existence. Moreover, he had also revealed a lot of information in front of Honest Jin. For example, he was invulnerable and had killed 2 steel men. This Jin Laoshi was definitely going to die. As for the other person, Yang Ming wanted to keep an eye on him while he was driving the speedboat back. He wanted to see the specific location of the island, where the center was, so that he could make the next step of the plan. But now it seemed that he should catch that person and release this person. If he couldn't, he could only catch the other person and kill them together. As for the location of the center island, he could only rely on the person in front of him. His name is Siren. His purpose this time is to catch a few test subjects. Jin Laoshi said. Test subjects? Yang Ming frowned. Just some local hooligans. We catch them for experiments. Even if these people disappear, no one will suspect, Jin Laoshi said. Okay, you draw the name and location of the center island for me. I will give you a quick death, Yang Ming said. The center island has a name. In fact, it doesn't have a name, but Dr. Benjamin called it Fire Wolf Island. As for the location, I don't know. Jin Laoshi smiled bitterly. Chapter 23:01. You don't know? Yang Ming stared at Jin Honest, wanting to get some information from his mind, but Yang Ming was disappointed. Jin Honest was really scared by Yang Ming's gaze. He was afraid that Yang Ming would use the previous method to deal with him again. But Yang Ming also read important information from his mind. That was, Jin Honest was not lying. What he said was true. He really didn't know the exact location of Firewolf Island. There's an automatic cruise chip in the speedboat. As long as we enter our fingerprint verification and press the forward or return button, the speedboat will automatically start and move according to the route map. The route inside is the most perfect route, and there is generally no risk. Jin Honest explained. Even if there is a problem and we manually deviate from the route, the positioning chip in the speedboat will automatically let the speedboat enter the correct route again according to the current coordinates. So every time we do this, we don't know the exact location. So that's the case. I believe you. Yang Ming nodded. This time, Jin Honest was honest and didn't lie. He really didn't know the exact location of Firewolf Island. Originally, Yang Ming planned to use the same method to capture Siren and then interrogate him, but now it seemed impossible. Yang Ming still counted on him to drive the speedboat back and guide him to Firewolf Island, so he had to keep him. Phew, that's good. Jin Honest breathed a sigh of relief. If Yang Ming didn't believe him and hit him again like that, then he would really want to die. What else do you know? Tell me, Yang Ming said. I don't know anything else. I'm only responsible for helping Dr. Benjamin purchase some experimental supplies, Jin Honest said. I'm not in charge of the other things either. The secrets that I can access are very limited, Jin said honestly. Yang Ming nodded. In that case, I will give you a quick death. Thank you. Jin Laoshi smiled in relief. He had been working under Dr. Benjamin at the Central, so he had long been prepared to die. He also knew that this day would come sooner or later. Therefore, when Yang Ming wanted to kill him, he was very calm and indifferent. Yang Ming casually waved his hand and ended Jin Honest. For people like this who didn't have much strength, Yang Ming could easily kill them, and it was even easier when there was no resistance. Although Dong Jun was relatively far away from Yang Ming, he heard the conversation between Yang Ming and Jin Honest clearly. Seeing Jin Honest being ended by Yang Ming, he got out of the car. We made a mistake. We should have caught the other person. It doesn't matter. Yang Ming waved his hand, but he didn't regret it too much. He just said, that person is Dr. Benjamin's student. Although he may know more than Jin Laoshi, it is estimated that it is all academic stuff. For example, Dr. Benjamin's research results, and so on. However, these things are not very useful to us. We are not stealing his technology. That's true. Dong Jun nodded and asked, then let's go back to the dock and wait for that Siren. However, if he can't wait for Jin Honest, will he suspect something and alert the enemy and not return to Firewolf Island? Don't worry about that. If he realizes that he can't contact Jean-Honest, he will definitely run away immediately. Yang Ming said with a smile, "If it were you, what would you do immediately when you realize that your companion is missing? Would you just sit here and wait for death?" "That's true. I am overthinking it." Dong Jun thought about it and nodded. Indeed, if it were a normal person, the first thing to do would be to run away when their companion was missing. If they kept waiting at the dock, wouldn't they be a fool? If they ran to the sea, they would be free to do anything. There was nothing to worry about. After all, on the sea, the speed of a speedboat was faster than other ordinary speedboats. As long as no one was following them, everything would be fine. Yang Ming disposed of Jean-Honest's body and drove back to the dock with Dong Jun. Yang Ming glanced at the speedboat position at the dock and found that Siren's speedboat was still there and had not left. He breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Siren's matter was not over yet. However, it made sense when he thought about it. Jean-Honest only went to buy things, while Siren went to catch some hooligans. Naturally, he took much more time than Jean-Honest. Even if Yang Ming caught Jean-Honest for a long time, Siren's matter was probably not over yet. Yang Ming and Dong Jun still sat in front of an open-air beverage shop. They ordered a few drinks and some snacks and ate leisurely. Sure enough, it was not until the evening that Siren returned to the dock in a shabby-looking pickup truck. The pickup truck was not there before, and it seemed to be hired. After Siren got off, he and the driver of the pickup truck moved a few large boxes from the back of the pickup truck. Yang Ming glanced at them and found that the boxes were filled with unconscious hooligans. Of course, the driver of the pickup truck did not know this. Yang Ming did not care about the life and death of these hooligans. Whether they died or not had nothing to do with Yang Ming. Siren watched them move the boxes onto the speedboat. Then, he gave the pickup truck driver some money, and the pickup truck driver drove away. Siren stood beside the speedboat at the dock and took out his phone to make a call. However, Jean-Honest's phone had been turned off by Yang Ming, so Siren naturally couldn't get through. Hearing the notification tone on the phone, Siren's face changed slightly. It became a little gloomy and strange. He frowned and paced back and forth. He picked up the phone again and dialed Jean-Honest's number, but it was still turned off. Siren had no choice but to call Dr. Benjamin's phone. "Doctor, I am Siren." Dr. Benjamin's phone was quickly connected. Siren said, "What's wrong? What happened?" Dr. Benjamin asked, "Didn't I tell you? When you are outside, try not to call me. I can't contact Jean-Honest. We agreed to meet at the dock at night, and he should be faster than me. But he did not appear at the dock, and his phone was turned off," said Siren. "Then don't worry about him. You immediately take the speedboat back and see if anyone is following you. If someone is following you, contact me immediately." Dr. Benjamin immediately made a decision, but he did not finish what he was going to say to Siren. If someone was following them, Dr. Benjamin would remotely activate the self-destruct device of the speedboat, burying both the speedboat and Siren in the sea. Chapter 2302. Dr. Benjamin was a ruthless person. He would rather sacrifice Siren, his student, than simply let others discover the location of the island at the center. "Yes, doctor." After Siren finished speaking, he hung up the phone and boarded the speedboat. After verifying his fingerprints, he started the speedboat. The speedboat automatically began to move in the direction of Fire Wolf Island. Yang Ming clearly saw the conversation between Siren and Dr. Benjamin. However, Yang Ming didn't know what Dr. Benjamin said, but he didn't need to figure it out. He just needed to know that Siren was going to return to the center. Yang Ming smiled faintly and locked his eyes on Siren's speedboat. "How is it? Is there any problem?" Dong Jun saw that Siren's speedboat turned into a black line and finally became a black spot disappearing in the place between the sea and the sky. So he asked with some concern. "No," Yang Ming said. "I've been watching him. Order some food and drinks. Let's have dinner here. It will probably take a long time for him to reach Fire Wolf Island." "Okay." When Dong Jun heard Yang Ming say so, he suddenly felt relieved. He called the waiter over and ordered a lot of fast food. The two people drank and ate fast food at the table. Dong Jun didn't ask for beer. He was afraid that drinking too much would cause trouble. However, what surprised Dong Jun was that Yang Ming didn't keep staring in the direction of Siren's boat. Instead, after the waiter served the food, he started to eat. This situation made Dong Jun feel very strange. He couldn't help but ask, Yang Ming, aren't you looking at Siren's side? I'm looking. I've been looking. Although Yang Ming said so, he continued to eat the hamburger without looking up. His eyes were looking at the food. He didn't look in the distance at all. This made Dong Jun a little speechless. He didn't know what to say. Dong Jun looked at Yang Ming's appearance and didn't know what to say. Although he believed that Yang Ming wouldn't lie, he was also afraid that Yang Ming would really lose sight of Siren. After all, this was a rare opportunity. It was not easy to wait for the people from Central and kill one of them. After Siren went back this time, Dr. Benjamin would not easily send people out of Central again in a short time. It would be even more difficult to find the location of Central then. As a matter of fact, although Dong Jun was from Central, he had never been to Central's headquarters. Even when he met Dr. Benjamin, it was at a branch base, so in Dong Jun's view, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't worry. How can you not trust me when I do things? Yang Ming asked with a smile. That's true. Dong Jun thought about it and felt that he was overthinking things. Who was Yang Ming? He was an extremely cautious person. Dong Jun and Huang Yukai repeatedly tried to harm him, but failed. Yang Ming naturally had an extraordinary ability. Otherwise, it was impossible to always maintain the posture of a victor. Thinking of this, Dong Jun was relieved and ate with Yang Ming. Until 11 o'clock in the evening, there were not many people at the dock. Except for Yang Ming and Dong Jun, there were only a table of drunkards left. The owner of the booth came over and politely said to Yang Ming and Dong Jun, "Two guests, my booth is about to close. Is there anything else you need?" "For more bottles of juice," said Yang Ming. "Also 2 drumsticks and 2 sandwiches." Dong Jun knew that Yang Ming might be prepared to stay up all night, so he ordered some food and then asked, "You are closing. Is it okay for us to continue to eat here and watch the night view?" Naturally, there's no problem. After the boss wrote down the needs of Dong Jun and Yang Ming, he instructed the waiter to prepare and said, "You can stay here until dawn. My place is a resting place for sailors and merchants waiting for ships at the dock. You see, there are a few sailors at that table. Their ship will arrive in the early morning, so they have to wait here until midnight." It turned out to be like this. Dong Jun glanced at the table of drunkards in the direction pointed by the boss and nodded. "It's just that I am closing, and the sea breeze here is very cold at night. I suggest that you 2 drink to warm your body." The boss shrugged and said, "Although it is not very cold here. All right, just get whatever you want." "Thank you." Yang Ming did not refute, but said to the boss, "Okay." The boss was happy that he managed to sell some more drinks, so he turned around and went to prepare them. As for Yang Ming and Dong Jun, they continued to sit at the table and eat and drink out of boredom. They were not like the other table of drunkards who were loudly joking, saying vulgar words, and telling vulgar stories. Yang Ming and Dong Jun were going to do something very confidential. Even though there was no one around, they were still very careful, just like 2 ordinary guests drinking alone. In the middle of the night, a ship docked at the dock. The table of drunkards stood up one after another, patted their buttocks, and left. When they left, they did not look at Yang Ming and Dong Jun obviously. They were used to waiting for a ship in the middle of the night, and they did not care much about the table next to them. After they left, only Yang Ming and Dong Jun were left. "How is it?" Dong Jun asked. "I don't know, but it should be here soon. It seems that the second tank of fuel is almost used up." Yang Ming said, "That's good." Dong Jun nodded. "Sure enough, we're almost there." Yang Ming smiled and said, "I vaguely saw an island, but it was dark and there were no lights." Yang Ming estimated that Siren should be here soon. After all, when Dr. Benjamin designed a speedboat, it was impossible to design the fuel tank perfectly without any leeway. That was impossible. After all, Accidents during the voyage had to be considered, so it was reasonable to leave a small half-tank of fuel in the end. Oh, an island in complete darkness? No lights? Dong Jun was slightly stunned. It can't be right. In my impression, the center should be located on a technologically advanced island that is brightly lit day and night. How can it be pitch black? I see. After Yang Ming listened to Dong Jun's words, he smiled. On the surface, it is like this, but there's another world in the interior. This island is a deserted island on the surface. There are some jungles and reefs on the island, but there is another world under the island. Even under the sea, within 1 nautical mile of the island, there is another world. This seabed, and under the island is a base. That you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.